Hi, this is Faith, and you are watching The Faith Factor. Holla. Hi, this is Faith, and you are watching The Faith Factor. And I just wanted to say that we have a pretty good show today. Today, we are going to be speaking with Miss Rui, aka Queen Mercy, aka Ami Pre, who is also known as the I don't know how she wants me to announce her, but she is the Honest Truth's ex girlfriend, aka Baby Mama. And there's been a lot of things going on within the past month online with different sides of the story coming out. We've heard Ami Rui's side of the story with Grandmaster Troll's channel, and we have also heard the Honest Truth himself come out on his own channel and on Grandmaster Troll's channel as well to tell his side of the story. But now we want to get a little bit of more deeper. We want to take some deep dives into the situation because this is a serious situation, guys. There is a child involved, and there's a lot of allegations being thrown around about mental illness, and who's at fault, and who started things. And so we want to once and for all, get the conversation out here. And we're going to talk about domestic violence in our relationships and how it affects our children. We're also going to talk about relationships in general, as far as how we can kind of come together better as Black men and Black women so that we can co-parent. Possibly, I do want to see this situation end and these two getting together, possibly to co-parent this child, because the child is the one that loses out. Now, I've taken the time to talk to Rui, and that is her name, Rui, and that's spelled Ruyi. So I want to, without any further ado, bring Rui on the panel. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her up.
Sorry, hi Faith.
Hi, what's going on, ma'am? How you doing?
Hanging on by a thread, but feel a lot better.
Okay. Well, I wanted to bring you on, and then also I have my co-host in the back, Miss AP from the Bronx. What's going on, AP?
Good afternoon,
Hey,
everyone. Good to be here.
Okay. So this is I'm trying to position this as a serious discussion, and this is not to throw anybody under the bus. This is not going to be a smear campaign, a we hate all men campaign. This is going to be us discussing this situation as adults and coming up with viable solutions, and also getting her side of the story told in the way that it needs to be told. So I want to start out first. Omni, with you giving us a little bit of background about yourself. Tell
well,
us, a little bit about your upbringing. How many siblings do you have? Where were you born? Give us a little bit of background. I'm gonna go
okay,
ahead and give you the floor.
okay. I was born in Miami, Florida. My mother is Puerto Rican, Cuban, and Mexican, with Native American ancestry, and my father is from the Bahamas. Um, and my family, my father is a sexual predator, so I have no relationship with my father. And my mother has a little bit of undiagnosed mental illness herself going on, and I went through a lot with her growing up because she tried to sell me into child prostitution, and I was forced to cook cocaine at an early age.
Okay, so you had a rough upbringing,
Yes,
and
and I
on
have
top of
12
that, you
siblings.
you said that you were diagnosed with mental illness. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, I've been in therapy since I was about 12 years old, and at the time, there was no serious diagnoses, except depression as I got in my 20s. But in 2017 is when I got diagnosed with a schizoaffective bipolar type disorder. At first, it was diagnosed as major depressive disorder, which is a lot of Black people are usually given that diagnosis, and it's not like further looked into. It's like more of a generalized diagnosis. But because of my symptoms after having a car wreck, I began to have more symptoms that led them to diagnose me with the schizoaffective uh, diagnosis.
Okay, so after the car wreck, that was the traumatic event that brought that forth. How old were you when you were diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder?
I probably was maybe 29.
Okay, and that's about the right age because something like that, usually schizophrenia, schizoaffective, mania, all of those diagnoses don't really come out in adults until you're like mid to late 20s. So
Yes,
that's about the right time. Um, how many medications are you actually on? Because when Honest Truth did his stream, I know you were there, you saw it.
yes.
He pretty much, showed all your medications, and it looked like it was about 20 or 30 different medications. How many medications are you on?
About three for my mental health, and other ones are for respiratory or pain relief and things like that. But it's about three solid ones. I can't take two of them because of the pregnancy, so it rules down to one.
Okay, and now will they be prescribing you something milder?
Something what they have me on, they're just gonna be upping the dose soon.
Okay, so you will be back on your medication.
Yes,
Okay, but you are, taking the ones for the depression.
yes.
Okay, all right. So you're not on 20 or 30 different medications like he was showing us in his stream.
No, some of those bottles are like old pills that I had from Ohio for that I accumulated. Because I usually don't throw anything out, especially medicine. I usually just throw it in a bag, and that's the bag that he pulled out. So, sometimes you get a refill and get the same scripts over and over again every month. So that's pretty much what he was doing, and some of those things were dental prescriptions from when I had three tooth extractions this year alone.
Okay. And now I want you to tell me a little bit about that because you and I talked offline and
Hmm.
you told me, but I want you to share with the audience because he said a lot of things on his live stream that made it look as if, you were just this unbalanced person. And see, I really, really want to put out here about your competency because
Right,
you seem to be very well balanced. You seem to be very competent. You don't seem to be this, crazy person, and you're not even on your meds even now.
right.
You're on some of your meds now, but take us back a little bit because I want you to, kind of tell me a little bit about your background with the Honest Truth. Now, as you got to know him, you got to find out that he is also diagnosed with a
With
disorder
the
as well.
Yeah, with the disorder as well. Me and the honest truth used to talk on the phone a lot. Uh, it started out with him being like offering to give me free promo for my business because I think it was either during COVID or after, like when COVID first happened. I lost like almost 50% of my clientele due to the pandemic, and he started to help me rebrand and help with my promo to bring me customers. So we used to talk a lot, and it was strictly about business. And he was a little surprised that I wasn't interested in him, because when I'm talking business, I'm not mixing business and pleasure together. But the more we talked, he's an intellectual guy. I'm an intellectual person, so we were able to hold conversations for long periods of time. Um, we ended up spending all of our holidays together virtually, going on dates virtually because it was kind of corny with the pandemic and stuff like that. Um, to the point of us wanting to be together and not be separate from each other.
Okay, and let's stop right there. Now, you said you were going on dates virtually, and was this
Yeah,
because you were in two different cities?
yeah, we're in two different states. Yeah.
Okay, so at this time, I need you to share with the audience so it can be clear. At that particular time, where were you?
I was residing in the Ohio Valley, near West Virginia,
Okay, and honest truth was,
and Fort Worth, Texas.
okay, so you did the online dating because of the distance.
Yes.
Okay. Now, he stated that you kind of threw yourself on him,
No,
that you didn't want to, that he did not want you to come and spend your money on a date, or or taking him on a vacation. He said that he told you not to come out, not to spend your money, and that next thing you know, he looked up and you had a plane ticket, and that you were just coming anyway. Like, you were just like, hey, I'm coming anyway regardless.
right,
So
right,
tell
and
your side of that story.
that's not true. He would tell me like to wait until he gets his finances up, wait until he can get a vehicle and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I really don't care about that. I just want to be able to meet you and I'll go back home or whatever. So what was happening is that I didn't know that there was another woman in the background or women in the background who were, from what I was told by him, the reason why he was pushing back so much because a young lady was also flying down to see him at the same time I was supposed to be coming. So that's why he pushed back. But at the time, I went ahead and because I started my own little vacation. I travel a lot. So I've also lived outside of the United States for a while. I like to work with orphans and things like that. So I'm used to just picking up and flying and going places. So I started my vacation in West Virginia because it was like right across the river from where I was living. And he got upset because he thought I was going to see a guy. So and I was like, actually, I was planning on possibly, coming to see you because I've canceled so many flights because he would change his mind or give me a little pushback. So when I was in West Virginia, I was actually in Charleston, West Virginia, and we had a blow up right before my flight was scheduled to come down, which he was on board with because we set a date for it because he asked me to give him a specific date for when I was coming. So we had a blow up. I was very upset with him to the point where I said I'm going back to Ohio and I'm not coming. I don't care how much money I spent on the Airbnb and our plans and all of the reservations that we have booked. I'll cancel everything. And he was like, "Please come and see me." Like we were actually arguing over a car seat because he said he didn't believe that a child, my son, was supposed to be in a car seat at his age. So he was like, he needs to learn how to be a man, and that's why I'm gonna be in his life to teach him. And I'm like, no, my son's gonna be in a car seat, and that upset him.
Okay, so how old was your son at the time?
7.
He was 7.
Like
Okay.
like the little
The
booster
the
seats and
booster
everything.
seats. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I had
so
them for my children. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, no, my son's gonna have a booster, like regardless. I don't care what you say because of the height difference and the chest and everything. So I'm like, I don't play any games about safety. So that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah, my grandson he rode with a booster seat all the way up until he was about maybe 9 or 10 because he's short.
Yeah.
So the height difference, he needed the booster seat. So that's understandable. So let me ask you this because he stated on his stream, that you kind of pushed the envelope. You kind of, said, "Hey, I don't care, if you not ready for it or whatever. I'm coming anyway."
He's talking about a time before that because I was planning on surprising him for his birthday, and I was just
Mm,
gonna pop up and be at the porch, and I decided not to do it, and he was a little disappointed. So he was like, "Actually, I would have liked it if you did show up on my porch for my birthday," because he ended up spending his birthday alone. So I was like, "Well, you see, that's why I wanted to come and see you because he doesn't fly, like he hates flying." And you can't take your firearms with you when you're flying and stuff like that. So he didn't want to go through the headache of all of that.
okay. So now at this point in time, were you a couple or were you
Um,
just talking?
According to him, we kind of laugh and joke about it, but you could hear him say on his channel, like, we've been kind of together for like over 2 years and stuff like that. But back then, at that time, he was saying that I'm single. And then when I try to go do what I want to do, I'm like, well, since you're single, I'm going to go hang out with my friends and go about my social life. And he was like, no, you're mine and we're together. I'm like, make up your mind, like, which one is it? So he was kind of like wishy washy until I physically got there.
Okay. Now, there's another thing that I want to bring out here because, like I said, you're a very competent woman. I had the conversation with you. You and I talked for over an hour. I don't find you to be incompetent. I don't find you to be erratic or talking crazy. You seem to have your head on tight. You seem to be very smart, very well-rounded woman. Um, Now, the honest truth divulge information about your, mental disability. So now, turnabout fair play. I think is fair for you to talk a little bit about what you learned about his
Yes, from
mental.
from from his, because like when we were talking on the phone and getting to know each other, he was like, I also have blank, and I was like, and then he said depression, and I was like, okay, depression and what else? But he never would say what else. So when I moved down to Texas, we were already living together and everything. His mother, he had a blow up with his mother, and his mother he was mad because his mother didn't want to sign his lease for an additional 6 months because she was co-signing the apartment that he was in, and I didn't even know that because I would have never moved in with him because I had my own place and I was getting ready to close on a house in Ohio, and he begged me not to close on the house and to just find a house in Texas instead, since his family was there and I didn't have like my family the way he had his family. So his mother is a physician, and she informed me that he is diagnosed with she said NPD, and I'm like, what is that? So this is me and his mom talking over a cell phone, and she's like, narcissistic personality disorder. Then when I speak to his father said he has narcissistic traits when we had him in therapy. So I'm only going off of what they told me, and so I had no clue of what it was, and I just began to educate myself more. And then I told his mom, like, thank you for telling me that because now I can have a little bit more patience with him.
Okay. And narcissistic, you said, what is it called? Narcissistic
Personality disorder.
personality disorder, and that's an actual disorder. I'm
It's
asking
a
Vita Rail
oh
down
Dita
in
real.
the chat too, but she said that that's an actual disorder.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay. Now there is no medication for it, right?
Yeah, that from what I researched, there's no medication to treat it. They can only treat like symptoms of anxiety, depression, or PTSD, like anything linked to anything that couples with it. But there's no cure for it.
Yeah, but there is no cure for NPD. I now in my research I found that out. Now, let me ask you this: did you know much about what narcissistic personality disorder is?
No, I had no clue because I would hear the word on social media being thrown around a lot, and his mother like begged me to go to therapy with him and to like keep him in therapy because she was saying that I'm pretty much influential over him, and that she would provide the therapy and things like that.
Okay,
Yeah, and they
and
have a
I'm gonna
family. They
see if
actually have a family therapist too.
I would like to ask the young lady, were you dating him during the time when he started his channel?
Yes, yes. It was
Okay,
kind of like after the fact. So after his first year of like doing the that new path that he went on.
okay, okay. Yeah, because I was trying to get a time frame because he was very respectful on his show toward women,
And he
hmm
and
was and that's when he was medicated. So I later learned that his mom said that he was on medication that whole entire year. And
okay,
okay,
now
that's when I got
the medication that he was taking, that was for depression and anxiety, right?
and she said it was more like a mood stabilizer and it helped
Mhm.
with anti seizures.
Okay.
okay.
Now, I don't know a whole lot about NPD, so I'm asking if Dieter, because I see him down there. He's a more well read in this than any of us on here would be,
Yeah.
and
And I
maybe he would take the time if he has time. If he doesn't, that's perfectly fine to
yeah,
come up and explain it to us, because I don't want to misrepresent anybody's disorder, and I don't want to paint anybody to be something that they're not. But
yeah,
from what I've heard of people with narcissistic disorder, they do a lot of projecting. And so on his stream, he said that you were very, how can I say, jealous, always accusing him of wanting to, cheat and, being erratic and
mhm.
crazy and all of this stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and I can say before D Durrell comes up, I want to say D Durrell, do you remember having a consultation with me because I would watch D Durrell's channel and I reached out because I wanted therapy in Texas and I wanted to make sure that I had a therapist in Texas. So I
Mhm.
reached out to D Durrell for a consult and to see if my insurance would be accepted and things like that.
Okay.
Um, out and I will also I forgot the last part of what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Hey, D.
No.
Durrell,
Hey, D.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
pretty
Oh,
good.
we're doing great.
Hey
Thank you for
Deidre.
coming up here on short notice. I know you're a busy man.
Right, right. Let
So
me
we're
okay.
we're talking about a narcissistic personality disorder, and I don't want to mischaracterize anything. So can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Okay. So let me kind of preface a bit when we're because I know that the word um narcissistic personality disorder or narcissism is used a lot and it's actually a bit saturated. And a lot of the characteristics that people say about narcissism is actually characterized by other personality disorders that are quite similar. Um, Narcissistic personality disorder is a what's called a cluster B disorder, meaning that that family of personality disorders, it's such as antisocial personality, borderline, histrionic personality disorder. They all pretty much have similar. what I would say similar attributes. It's kind of filled with manipulation. You kind of talked about projection a little bit. They are projective in a sense as far as um, wanting people to feel a certain way about them, or as far as how they feel about themselves, they see that in others, and it's a person in these type of disorders can be very very toxic, and they have a very difficult time getting along with people. And the reason why they have a very difficult time is because they're trying to convince people or influence people to think a certain way that's not necessarily reality. As it involves narcissism, a person who is narcissism lives in a state of grandiose thinking or heightened or exaggerated feelings about oneself, and they want to convince others to feel the same way that they feel about themselves, which is not necessarily grounded in truth. And for example, a person that is narcissistic um, may be an average Joe working at a grocery store, but will try to convince you that they own the store. And in convincing you, they'll put on a persona, they will lie, and they will put on a facade as far as what they have, what they own, the clothes they wear, the money they have. They'll be a bit braggadocious and so forth to convince you that they are at a level that they would like to think that they are. And so, um, when you're interacting with a person who's narcissistic, they're going to show a variety of different features. Okay. And part of that is they have an inflated sense of self, an extreme sense of self-love. But even though they feel that way, they want you to feel the same way. And for some of you out that have watched some of the YouTube videos and different things, there's a such thing as narcissistic rage. And for a lot of times, um, when a person, when you as an individual that's a friend or interacting with a person who's narcissistic, and you don't necessarily believe or go in line with what they're saying, they may act out in anger, they may become violent, they may be triggered emotionally and act in all types of erratic ways. Also, again, they're preoccupied with things such as money, fame, um, ideal
Mm-hmm.
self-love, power, all the things that they don't have. They don't have any of these things, but they want to convince you that they do have it. And they'll go through all types of creative ways to make you feel that way. And so they also have a sense of entitlement. They feel like they're entitled to your time, they're entitled to things. And one key component that's not talked about with a person that's narcissistic is that they typically fail to empathize with others. They don't feel for other people. Like, say for instance, if something bad happened to AP from the Bronx, okay, and let's say the person she was interacting with, that's someone that's a friend of hers, a narcissistic person will try to spin it back on them as if, what you're going through is not as important, but look what I'm going through. Or, they won't show any type of compassion or empathy. They'll spin it back on how they're hurting more, or they went through this and it did X, Y, and Z to them. So they don't necessarily communicate or interact effectively with people who will in sense look for reciprocity that you're giving to them. So if you're a person giving them help, giving them, support, they don't understand, or they fail to give that same thing back in return. And so until when that happens, that's why a lot of people that have this type of disorder, they do horrible in relationships. And they do horrible in relationships because they have low emotional intelligence, and they're not able to reciprocate what's necessary in relationships. So I talked
Dieter,
about like, the empathy. Um,
Dieter, can I ask you a quick
sure,
question?
sure.
If a person has such a disorder, is it outside of the scope for them to have rich and powerful friends and try to pretend like what the rich and powerful friends have, that it's theirs.
Yeah, that's something that can happen. But the key is that a narcissistic person never functions in their reality of who they really are. So even though they may have powerful friends, they don't have that. They don't have the prestige. They don't have the power. They don't have the money. So regardless of if their friends have it, a lot of people like this lie to their friends to get into those circles. There's a lot of lying. There's a lot of
Okay.
conning going on. There's a lot of
Mhm.
disingenuous behavior because, again, a person that's narcissistic is trying to, not only are they psychologically trying to convince themselves because they're living in a fantasy, grandiose state of mind, they also want you to believe that. So they'll go through
Okay.
all type of extreme situations. I'm gonna tell you one of my best examples because I'm gonna be honest. I've only treated 3 people in my whole career that truly had this illness, and that's why I don't understand how people think all of a sudden all these people seem to be all these narcissistic people all of a sudden on YouTube or and it's just not. I'm sorry. Now, she said a key thing when she talked about the situation with his parents. First, she said someone said he had narcissistic personality disorder. Then she said that um, the father said he had narcissistic traits. That is highly common. That because in order to be truly diagnosed, there's nine different features. You have to have 5 of the 9 features. So even though a person may have schizoaffective disorder that she talked about or bipolar disorder, they can still have 2 or 3 narcissistic traits. And I've seen diagnoses in the past where a certain person may not fit the diagnoses of narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, but the psychiatrist or the psychologist or whomever's diagnosed them may state they have certain level of narcissistic traits, such as some of the things I just mentioned, as far as extreme self of importance, a lack of empathy towards others, this fascination with power, money, things that they don't have, but they want you to believe that they have it because in their mind they think that they entitled to your time, entitled to whatever you have is mine. These are things that they do, and they can be mentally and emotionally draining. Now, one thing that was not talked about that I want to preface, because when she talked about diagnoses, a lot of people who have narcissism probably have another mental health disorder that goes comorbid, which means it's in line or it's actually uh, presenting parallel to the narcissism. They may have an anxiety disorder. They may have a mood disorder such as bipolar or major depression. So you can have in the past what we call axis one, which we don't necessarily use anymore, but it's kind of still kind of understood in the field where you may have another mental illness, and then the axis two, which deals with personality and intellectual deficit disorders, and it's still you may have an illness like that or multiple axis one disorders. You could have, let's say, an anxiety and a mood disorder, and along with narcissism at the same time. All 3 disorders at the same time. So these things are running comorbid. Now, a key thing is that even though it is not treated, or let's say there's no medication for personality disorders, and psychotherapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, is probably the most effective means of treating this illness. If the other illnesses, such as the anxiety levels and the depression levels, are treated well with what you can treat with medication, it makes it easier for a person in psychotherapy or in life in general to cope with the narcissistic traits that they're exhibiting. So even though that's maybe not a means of tackling those symptoms directly, it can indirectly have a positive effect if they're managing the other symptoms. So
Okay.
if you're managing those other symptoms, because typically there's very few situations where I saw a person just had a personality disorder and nothing else. They usually have a personality disorder along with another mental health diagnosis. So for the most part, looking at that inconsistency, you're probably going to find a person that has um, NPD along with something else. So you're going to be treating multiple things. So in likelihood, they are getting some form of medication.
Does a
But but
narcissist know that they're a narcissist?
no, they don't. They don't.
Okay.
And the reason why is because if now many of them don't seek treatment because they don't think anything, because they think they're entitled in their mind because of uh, the way they think and the way their mind is kind of
Mhm.
structured. Which and I want to preface this. The reason why personality disorders and an intellectual deficit disorders such as being mental retardation and things like that can't be treated with medications because this is to have a personality disorder to fit the criteria you have to be at least 18 years of old or older, meaning that there is a a an addition of things that have occurred gradually over time, whether it's trauma, lack of attention, things that you witness traumatically over time that one develops this once they become an adult or towards the end of their latter teen years, in which it begins to manifest. But it doesn't necessarily meet the criteria until they're 18 years and older. So, in the same thing for someone who has, because these are things that gradually develop over time, like something with having an intellectual deficit disorder that could be hereditary and developmental causes, not necessarily symptomatic things in which the brain can hinder. Like the brain can treat psychosis, it can treat anxiety, it can treat impulse control and things of that sort, and depression or your mood. But things that have happened over time that can contribute to the overall development of this type of illness. So this is a gradual thing that happens over time, not necessarily a specific incident or situation. It's just basically
Now,
things that have happened over time.
I wanna ask you this because it's important for me to establish competency for Rui because I think that she was misrepresented on not Grandmaster Troll, but Deanna's Truth's channel when he was talking about her illness and showing
Right.
everybody all her medications, which to me there's got to be a HIPAA law against that. Um,
It'll be a HIPAA issue if I did it,
okay,
unfortunately. But you have to be a if you are a medical professional or someone working um in a healthcare environment, that would be a violation. But if
okay,
you're
but
just
it's
if you're just a person common, unfortunately, um, what I would say is if you wanted to strike the channel, you could strike the channel. But as far as from a legal standpoint, um, I don't think there's anything you can do because he's not a professional. And then also we got to understand this could be symptomatic. Again, I can't say what he has, regardless of what she may have stated, because in
right.
my position, I can't go by inferences. I have to go by documentation. But what I can say is that obviously he has some level of issues mentally that he may have struggled with, that may have caused the issues that they have. And some of what he did was symptomatic of what he may be internally dealing with and not necessarily getting the right treatment. So by going out and impulsively showing that in an intent to hurt her or an intent to get back at her, that's
Mhm.
symptomatic of those issues per se. So, but I can't, without a shadow of a doubt, unless I had documentation to say this person, his real name is diagnosed with so and so from X practitioner, then I would be able to, with 100% confidence, speak more deeply into things as it relates to that particular mental illness. But for me, I'm going by information because and also he didn't say that he had this illness, in which
Right.
again, you can look at it two ways. It could be symptomatic of the illness that's claimed, because most people with NPD are not going to admit it because they're
Mhm.
in a state of thinking that they are above and beyond everybody else. Okay, they're going
Well, I
to.
mean, he does have this handsome man channel. I mean, he's
And
he's
and
been
he's
he's
the
been
chairman. He's the
they,
chairman,
they,
Faith.
they,
Remember
they
he
do
said
get
that?
caught up again. They do get caught up in, and to me, a lot of materialism, a lot of things to make people think that they're on a level. They don't get the importance from within. They have to have validation from others. And that to me is the end result of them having constant self-defeating situations, because a person that's truly confident in themselves don't necessarily need validation from everybody, but they thrive on convincing others that they're at a level that in their mind has conjured up this fantasy world that they're there.
Mhm.
So really, most narcissists are not at the level that they claim. Most of them are actually at the other end of the pendulum, to be honest with you. They're usually not as educated as they claim they are. They're usually not as successful. A lot of them are actually, they procrastinators. They are malcontents. They kind of failed at a lot of things, and so forth. And they so in some situations, due to the lack of success, some kind of way psychologically, and I can't really, and this is not necessarily explained that well in science, their brain begins to defend themselves from this, in which they start inventing and thinking in a ways that's directly opposite of their reality. And that's why they're very good liars. They're very good pretenders, putting up facades and things like this to make you think things. And a lot of people fall for this stuff because it's very, very convincing. Matter of fact, I had a situation where I had a client of the last narcissistic person that I treated was actually 7 years ago. And I see clients from all over the place. And I mean, I'm just sorry, it's less than 3% of the population that actually has this. I would actually add maybe another 2% for those that may have it but not seeking treatment. But when you
Mhm.
really look at it, it's really a small percentage. It's really, and then you also got to factor in those that may be misdiagnosis, because there are other illnesses. There are two other cluster B disorders that are very similar to narcissism: anti-personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder are very similar to narcissism. But I don't want to get in all of that. But I'm just saying. So, oh, go
Well,
ahead.
I do want you to can you how long do I have you up here for?
You got me for a good 40 minutes, 30, because I do have
Oh,
a thing.
okay.
I got a staff meeting that I got to facilitate at about 4:30, but I have another 40, about 30, 45 minutes.
Okay, because I want to get back to you with that, but
Okay.
it's really important to me, Dita Rail, because he tried to make it seem as if she's this unstable person. She's crazy.
Right.
He put a lot of stuff out there, and Rui, you talked to me and you told me that you talked to Dita Rail quite a bit behind the scenes. Do you
Yes.
mind if Dita Rail talks about, what he feels about your competency?
Yes. I don't know if you remember me, D.
Yeah, I remember you, but unfortunately, I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Even
okay.
if you gave me, I don't feel comfort. I don't feel comfortable as a professional discussing what we talked about in confidence. Even
No,
if
no,
you
no,
gave,
no. I don't want to hear about. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear about what you guys talked about in confidence. I just want to know in general, in talking to her, do you feel that she's just this erotic person?
I'm gonna reserve that. I don't feel comfortable speaking on that. I really don't. I'm
Okay.
just I get what you're saying. What I
Right.
will say is this: um, I've seen a range in her competency, and sometimes it was more. Sometimes she appeared more based on what she was going through. She seemed more competent than other days. I'll
Okay.
just put it like that. Certain times I did feel, and then certain times I didn't.
Okay. So there
But
was a
but but
range.
but there were certain identifiable stressors that she talked about that contributed to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so there were
Okay.
certain. It depended on what was going on, because there were some things going on that triggered things. So what I'll say is that there were times where she was seen appear, and then there are some times that it was maybe somewhat questionable, based on again what was going on at the time. Because
Okay.
we're talking about a period of probably over maybe 8 to 10 months, maybe somewhere around 8 months or so. So it was um, periods where she contacted me. I may have contacted a week or two later or something like that. It was spread over time. So, but there were things happening, particularly at some time, and yeah, that's probably the extent that I can say about that.
Okay, now, and that's basically what I was trying to gauge. I know you
Right,
can't get into like the personal,
right.
right. Okay, so that's what I was trying to gauge. Omni, can you
Yes.
do you feel comfortable talking to us a little bit more about what happened um that night where there was the altercation and where it led up to you having to defend yourself or feeling you had to defend yourself
Yeah.
by going to use a weapon.
Yes, I can't recall like what actually started everything, but I know that I was in a high stress situation, and usually when I'm stressed, I'm supposed to go for a walk or separate myself, and it's something that he and the therapist agreed on, that he would give me the space to take. He can't like ride me on hard questions or ask me something that may be triggering, to give me some time and then talk. But I left the house and I went to the mall, which was like right down the street from my house. But he kept calling me throughout the whole entire time I was there. He continued arguing, because one thing about THT, when he gets started on something, he wants to finish it. So it could last for 6 hours, it could last for 12 hours, and I'm not exaggerating. It could last that long, and he will fuss and fuss and fuss till the cows come home. And at that time, my head was pounding. I was not on my medication, because prior to that, he asked me to stop taking my medication because he said it was turning me into a zombie and he wanted his girlfriend back. So, and I
So
was
now
asking.
he physically take your medication?
Yes, he would take my personal items like my medication, my wallet, my birth certificates, because I would usually pack my stuff up to leave and go to a hotel for a couple of nights, or try to leave altogether. So he would hold my valuables so I won't be able to
I,
leave.
I'm sorry, but can I interject for just 1 minute?
Go
Darrell,
ahead.
what do you think of him saying, "I don't want you taking your medication because I want my girlfriend back"? What do you make of that statement?
Wow. What I make of that statement is a person that's um not mentally healthy, and he was in no position to tell somebody about their mental health treatment, particularly if he's struggling with his own set of issues. And I think in his mind, he had a idea of what she was or what she should be, and he felt like her taking the medication would change her in a sense, would probably make her more functional and harder for him to manipulate. That's actually what I
Mhm.
think. I think if she's probably more functional, and by her being more functional, it's harder for him to get away with the things. And if she's sicker, or let's say she's at a lower level or decompensating, it's easier for him to manipulate and tell her to do things and to control her. That's what I think in
Okay.
that sense. It's about a sense of control that he if she was, let's say, on her medicine, she's functioning, she's thinking more clearly and lucid and everything, she would in turn start evaluating the reality of what she's dealing with and probably would leave or not, or be in conflict with what he's saying. But if she's not, then he could probably tell her things, probably be very abusive verbally or physically or whatever else, and she would just deal with it and not necessarily uh try to get away from it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Um
because when she said, oh, he told me not to take my medication, and then she kept going on. I was like, holy, whoa, 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 that is a huge red flag.
But see that's also indicative of who he is because I think she was saying he wasn't getting the treatment, so that's only indicative of his own issues. He he
Mm-hmm.
he has is, and again, this is a person who has mental illness. That's the minimum that we know. Even though I don't have confirmation of the exact what he's diagnosed with, but I would think he probably has multiple diagnoses, not just one. But a person like that is not able, particularly in not getting treatment, is not in any position to tell anybody how to manage their own symptoms. They're just not. But again, that's a manifestation of
And
their own.
she said Dita Rail that sometimes she's a little sluggish and zombie-ish. Now, when you first start back to taking your medication,
Mhm.
a lot of the patients aren't they a little sluggish at first until the
Oh yeah,
medication?
side effects will. I know for a fact. Um, Common side effects. You may oversleep or not get
Mhm.
enough sleep. You may have dry mouth. You may start feeling groggy or low energy. These are real symptoms. And so once the body adjusts to the medication, over
Mhm.
time you're going to start feeling like yourself. But there is a certain period of time of adjustment, particularly
So
if you're not taking it regularly. So that's common. That now it manifests.
he wasn't giving her time to go through her adjustment period.
Yes. And so it may present differently for other people. Some people can take meds and not change. There's not a real change at all. But most medications will present some level of side effect, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe. And you may experience something, but you have to give your body time to adjust to those meds. Yes, you will feel groggy, you will feel slow. You may have also some of these meds may hinder your sexual interest or arousal. That also, and this is one reason why a lot of people don't like taking certain meds because it can take away your sexual interest or wanting to have sex and your libido. It can affect that. So that could be a variety of things, and it presents different for women and men because we both sexes can experience that. But the medication, particularly within the first month, yeah, it's going to take on average about at least a month and a half to 2 months for you can really start seeing the results. It's not going to be I just take a pill and I'm immediately getting these no, it's gonna be slowly over time that you're gonna start seeing I would say 2 to 3 weeks to a month where you start to see the benefits of it. It's not gonna be I just take a pill today and I'm better. No, it now what you now the side effects depending on it's really bad, that can happen at it, depending on your body chemistry, that can
Mhm.
occur quickly or it can occur over time. It all depends on the individual. But I do think those statements, if by him saying those things, is just a manifestation of his own illness because that's how he feels about treatment and the lack of getting it, if that's what happened. And he's just basically projecting it onto her. And again, it's easier for him to manipulate her if she's sick as opposed to her being at a higher functional level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So, Ruri, you were at the mall. He kept calling over and over again, and then he's, going back and forth with you. And then what happened after that?
Yes, because usually I talk to my sister to kind of like help me like balance myself out just in case I overreacted to something he did or said or anything like that. So there are plenty of times my sister would be like, "Well, you were wrong. He's actually right this time," or this, that, and the third. So that day he just did. I didn't get any sleep because I think he started the night before and then he carried on. I think he gave me like a silent treatment in between, and then he started up again. So I was like, since I think he was saying that I wasn't feminine enough or something to that extent, and I was like, and all these grievances that he had. So I was like, well, if you feel that way, then I'll just leave and go find somebody else, and that'll solve everything. So I started packing. Usually I'll start packing and then he'll snatch my things away or start yelling. But this particular time, he wanted me to leave my debit card behind because it was close to the rent being due the following month. So he was like, leave the card with me, and I'm not gonna let you leave with the card." So he began charging over. I think at that
So,
particular
so
moment,
wait a minute. What was that? Your debit card?
yeah, my debit card.
So, what were
And
you supposed to do for you and your children for money?
exactly. And he says something like, "You can't hold me," and meaning that I can't. I guess I don't even understand his slang most of the time because I don't really talk like that. So I was like, "What does that even mean?" So I guess not to leave him hanging or not to leave him, stuck in the bind, because he would say, "You don't come into my life and leave me in a worse situation." And if you guys pay attention to the live streams that he's done, he was like, "She's leaving me like in a worse situation," meaning he doesn't have a backup plan. He has nothing to lean on, so to say. Um, but he started punching the walls. Um, just completely going mad, and I provided those photos. Then he lunged over at me because he wanted me to be quiet, and not to speak. And he was at that time having me stand up like I was some sort of a soldier until he allowed me to sit down, and until he said it was okay for me to do do whatever. I had to wait for his say so, and I was already upset. And usually once I get to that level, submissions out the window. So he didn't like that I was still talking back, so he
Wait, wait, wait,
lunged
wait,
up.
wait, 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 wait. Hold on, back up. He had you stand up.
Yeah, he had me like standing in the corner like I was 5 years old.
She was on an adult
Yeah,
timeout.
timeout. Yeah, that's what he said. Like I'm supposed to stand there until he says I can leave. I couldn't even use the restroom until he said it was okay.
Okay, now when this is happening, are you complying with this?
It was the first time that it happened because yeah, we got into an argument about him saying that he was alpha, and I said I hate to burst your bubble, but you're not alpha. That I'm like, there's nothing alpha about you. And he started screaming that he was the alpha and omega and all this crap like that. So he just went on a tangent to show me. He was like, if I'm meaner to her and I show my dominance, then she'll like respect me more. Because he always said I didn't respect him because I kind of say what's on my mind and say how I feel. And he will
Were you
also,
were you on your medication when you said that?
not that day. Nope.
Oh, not that day. Okay, okay. I was getting ready to say that's why he don't want you to be on your medication.
Yeah, so he wasn't too happy, so he was lunging over at me, and I was just trying to. I should have shot at the ceiling, but I shot straight ahead, and he was standing pretty close. Like he almost got that bullet that day. It was very very close. Like how scary it was, because I only shot with one hand, so it was pretty scary. And the firearm that I shot him with is the firearm he made me carry on a daily basis. And I used to cry when I first moved in with him, and I was like, I don't trust myself around guns. Um, with my diagnoses, I'm not even supposed to be around guns. So please don't let me carry this gun. Like, take it away, lock it
Right.
up, remove these guns out of my sight. And he would say that I have to carry it on me for my protection because I'm in Texas now, and he would not let me leave the house unless I had that firearm strapped onto my body.
I like to say something with this, what she's saying. Um, I would like to lament to the fact that um, it sounds like to me when she's discussing this that he definitely had some other issues because some of the stuff that she's talking about is not necessarily in line with NPD. It's more mood related, what he's doing and saying. And as a person that has facilitated domestic violence for men and women, this is a very consistent, epitomizes what that type of relationship looks like when somebody is being psychologically or physically abused, and they will resort to extreme measures towards the perpetrator. It felt like their life is threatened, and the level of disrespect of you treating a grown person like a child to sit and do self imposed timeouts. This is stuff that I've seen and heard guys do for years. They will literally tell a woman to go or whatever, go to the corner till I tell you to, or they will whoop them literally with a belt like they're a child. These are things that a guy who is a perpetrator in this manner will engage in these type of behaviors. So what she's saying is very representative of you seeing a person go through this type of psychological and abuse, verbal abuse, the gaslighting that's going on as far as what she should and should not be doing, and he's basically putting himself on a pedestal to say I'm alpha and I'm this and that. This is things that a person does to have you undergoing a certain level of psychological what's the word I want to say, psychological manipulation and control, mind control, to make you do what they want. And so he's in turn getting some level of satisfaction by having the ability to make someone do something against their will. And there are many women. I've known women that were beaten and they killed their partner because of that. Because of this is not just an isolated event. I'm talking about things that can happen for months and months, years and years, where you're put in a position where you think you have no other choice. And so, and I'm saying this so that people really understand that her shooting at him was not just a impulsive, even though it wasn't a level of impulse because she was trying to protect herself. But this is basically a summarization of things that have happened over time that put you at that point. And she actually tried to prevent it because she told him, with my illness, I shouldn't be having this type of weapon. And I agree. I agree. I literally had a situation back in 2017 where I had a guy that had the same illness that she was diagnosed. He came to my office with a shotgun. He had no business going in the state of Texas. You can just go with a you don't even have to have an ID. You can just go to any place, pawn shop, wherever, and just buy a gun. You don't have to show, some people, you don't even have to have a gun license. And so I actually convinced him to go take that gun back because he had no business. And so I do think, and I would not encourage people that have a certain type of illness to have those type of weaponry, because if pushed or triggered, you may use it when it could have been avoided, and a person, you may not be able to diffuse your emotions or your mood in order to prevent yourself from doing it. If you don't have the proper tools, you may use it without thinking about the consequences. So I just wanted to preface that because that is a common thing that happens, it's not talked about enough in our community.
Yeah, thanks for saying that
Absolutely.
because at that time it felt like it was my dad talking to me and not him, and I was kind of like going through something visually that I can't like really explain into words, but it felt like I was with my dad again, and I just wanted him to shut up.
So this whole thing that happened, he made it seem as if you just went crazy for no reason and then just, started waving your gun and shooting. But the truth of the matter is that he was actually getting ready to attack you.
Right?
Now, let me ask you something, because that attack was not the first attack.
No.
Okay, the first time that he attacked you when you were pregnant, I want you to kind of talk to us about that, because you said you were about 6 weeks along.
Right.
And did he hit you in your stomach?
Yes, he did hit me on my stomach um, on that particular day. I can give you that actual date. It was July 2nd, and I found out I was pregnant on June 30th. So I found out I was 6 weeks along, precisely 6 weeks along. And when I told him I was pregnant, when I took the pregnancy test, he didn't seem too happy about it. Like, most people would be happy. And then I was like, maybe I told him too soon or too early, and I probably should have waited till I was maybe 3 months or so, like most women do. But I was excited to tell him because we were trying for a baby, and even discussing possibly him buying me IVF treatments because I couldn't conceive for like a whole year.
So you were actually trying for a baby because he makes it seem as if you just got pregnant and you sprung this on him.
Yeah, we were actively trying because he wanted, because there was a lot of pressure because yes, I was getting older, and I was fearful about my age and ovary count, uh, ovary counts and stuff like that. So he told me that we'll try it within a 6 months period, to try trying for a baby, um, and that's what we were doing.
So you and let me get this straight because you're saying that you guys were trying for a baby.
Yeah, the child already was named and everything.
So you both sat down, you talked about this, you thought of a name for the child.
Yep, we
Um,
had a wedding date set already, so everything he wanted everything to flow within a strategic time of events.
okay, so you were planning to get married.
Yes, we initially had to push our wedding date back because his father got ill.
Okay. Tell me about the plans for the wedding. Who initiated it? Who proposed?
Uh,
Just
if,
give us.
to be frank with you, the honest truth proposed to me a few years ago. But he later told me he was joking the whole entire time. Like, we actually spoke about going to Vegas on the whim and getting married that way. But he later told me he was joking about that. He wasn't serious. Um, but we just kind of like put our heads together, like, because I don't believe in living with a guy if I'm not married to him. Because he's like the first guy I ever lived with without being married to. So it was something I was very uncomfortable with. And he wanted marriage, so it was something that was already like open and put out on the table openly. Nothing romantic or anything like that.
Okay. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I also remember him saying on his live stream a few things. Um, it seemed to me as if he was saying that he didn't want to be a father. Um, he said that he liked to use the rhythm method or the pull out method, um,
Yeah,
for
he
intercourse.
when I first moved down here, I was on birth control and I
Mhm,
was taking Liletta, the IUD Liletta, and
mhm,
I think he was uh, uncomfortable in the process. Here's the pizza, guys. He was uncomfortable in the process, so he asked me. There were two options: either to get the birth control clipped, like the strings were a little too long, to either get the strings clipped or to get the entire device removed. He asked me to get the entire device removed because he didn't like the chemicals going in my body from the IUD. So he was like, I want you to get off of it, detox from it, and then let's start trying for a baby. So that's the irony of him saying he didn't want to be a father when he made me get off my birth control.
So he made you get off the birth control, and then he said, "Let's try for a baby."
Yeah, because my doctor told me I was going through like immediate hot flashes when the device was removed, and my doctor thought that I was probably premenopausal. So she was saying, let's wait in 6 months, and then you guys can start trying, and see if you get pregnant. And if I can't get pregnant, I would then have to go the IVF route.
So he keeps
Okay.
sabotaging your medications, and then when you have symptoms or mood swings or adjustments that your body is trying to make because he keeps trying to take you off of all of your medications even though he's not a trained professional, then he wants to come back and say that you're crazy.
Yeah. And it was my choice because I could have just like I saw that he was in pain from sex because he was angry that we couldn't even have sex because of the device itself. And he didn't make me get off of it, but I made my decision to get off of it. You know what I'm saying? Because no one can like force you to do anything. But I made the decision to have it
there
removed.
there's a such thing as coercive control, where if you don't do what a person wants you to do, they make your life a living hell until you do it.
Right.
So let's talk about this coercive control. Did you consider yourself to be what they would call a submissive woman? You know, the type of woman that lets the man lead. You listen to him, you cook, you clean, you wear your hair a certain way, and all this other stuff.
I would say like even down to my hair, he uh did tell me how to wear my hair. Um, Stopped me from wearing wigs because he didn't like the attention I was getting from Caucasian men. So
Okay.
he stopped me from wearing wigs and told me exactly how to style my hair that in a way that pleased him.
Now this is a picture. This picture is an example of what he would how he would want you to wear your hair, or present
Yeah,
yourself to him.
yeah. He likes my hair in either twists or dreadlocks.
Okay. And so basically you adhere to a lot of things that he asks you to do, which is not a problem, for a woman to want to, be pleasing to her man. I'm not trying to make that to be a problem or issue, but it does seem to be a lot of controlling going on, you
Right.
know, outside of this, even with the standing up in the corner, the taking your medications, dictating to you how to wear your hair.
Okay.
There's a lot of control going on here.
Right. I like to
And
say
and
something. Oh,
go ahead, D.
now, this is another thing. It's interesting just hearing this because I want everybody to be aware of the persona that the honest truth presented on YouTube. For those that, and I'm pretty sure there are people in here who are very familiar. Remember, he was very so much pro black woman at one time. Um, he actually spoke against a lot of the degeneracy that happened that African American men are doing in our community, right? During all this stuff that he, during the time of, he grew his platform he had a solid following that was like 90% women. And he talked about all the degeneracy things that black men were doing to black women. And in turn, he was doing this in real life.
Yep.
So I just want us to understand the complexity of his psychology when it comes to the fact that he was basically misleading, and he came out very misleading. Now, I'm not saying to the degree because he's not here to, I mean, we're going by what he said and we're comparing with what she stated. But regardless of that, there's a certain level of duality as it comes to the fact of I'm presenting in a way that's the direct opposite of how I'm treating a black woman in real life. And I just want people to understand the irony of that,
Yeah.
because the things that he talked about, the black men are doing this, black men were doing that. And he's guilty of all. He's actually worse. He was a lot worse.
Way worse.
way worse. And so I just want people to understand that, and so, and again, that to me is a function of some other things. That definitely is a function of some other things that I can't speak in deep on, but there's obviously evidence of something going on wrong where you creating a persona that kind of shadows who you really are, per se, in real life. So I just want to make people aware of that, because the stuff that she's saying, and I just want to say this in my talk, she never really, because I didn't even know, she did speak of a person, not very vaguely, but when this stuff came out, as far as me learning about it, I didn't even really know that was her at the beginning when it was exposed. And then when I learned that it was her, it made me reflect on all the communication that we had. And when we did have conversations, she spoke on things vaguely. And even the things that she spoke on vaguely, I wouldn't have guessed if there was somebody on YouTube, it would be him. He would have been one of the last people on the list, I would have thought. I would have thought it was some guy, some crazy guy on the manosphere or something like that, or some other space that probably was doing this. But it was, so that I just wanted to make note of that.
Yeah, because that's the exact way that I felt too, D. I didn't know, because she would come, sometimes to CK's channel when he would be doing poetry. And I remember, you remember, Ruri, when you would say that the person that you were reciting the poetry for, I think you said something to the effect that you couldn't, tell them, say the things that you're saying on the channel to that person. And I
Right,
didn't know at the time that you were talking about THT.
right. Yeah, he watched the show too, and he actually enjoyed it. We just didn't want to make our relationship public at the time.
Okay. And that's understandable because this is YouTube. This is the
Yeah,
relationship killer.
Right.
But you wrote some beautiful things about how you felt about him. And one thing that I do want to bring to the forefront, I noticed that when Honest Truth did both of his streams, even though he was on there ranting and raving and saying he didn't want anything to do with you or the baby, he said no less than, I want to say, 7 times with both streams together that he loved you. He really, really loved you. Dieterell, for what you know about people who have narcissistic disorders, I know not just, I don't want you to talk on him, but just the disorder.
Right.
Are most narcissists capable of love?
Wow, that's a tough question. I'm going to answer it from my own experience. I'm not going to say that they are not capable of love. What I'm going to say is that it's pretty consistent with the features that is highly unlikely that they will not love another person. They're more bound to loving themselves. And that, to me, is the hallmark of, as far as features of a person that's narcissist. They have an extreme love and admiration for oneself that's not grounded in truth, is grounded in fantasy and self and entitlement. So with the proper treatment over time, a person that does have this illness could be capable of showing empathy and love towards somebody else. But it's highly unlikely. I'm just gonna say it's highly I'm gonna say 9 out of 10 chance that they probably are not going to show love as opposed to showing love. But I'm not going to say just blanketly say no, they're not. But it's highly unlikely that these people are unable to show love unless they are able to manage their illness over time. It's not impossible. It's just highly
Highly
unlikely.
unlikely.
Yeah, very
Okay.
highly unlikely.
And that's what I was told as well. I just wanted to make sure because I'm not a therapist, I'm not a expert. So I just wanted to make sure that I got that from you because if I say, hey, I read this online, I did my Google University thing, um, that's not going to be good enough.
Right, right.
Um, so if you're in a relationship with a person with the narcissistic, who has been diagnosed as being a narcissist, I mean, can you have a successful relationship?
I'm gonna say again, highly unlikely. Highly
Would you
unlikely.
would you even be able to co-parent with the person?
If you're the primary caregiver,
Mm.
maybe, maybe. A lot of that is contingent upon that person being in therapy and constantly getting treatment. And then even with the treatment, it still may be very difficult. Not saying impossible, but it's going to be very difficult. So, but
Difficult.
to be honest with you, um, I would encourage anyone, if a person has a bona fide diagnosis of NPD, I would not encourage you to be in a relationship with them unless they have shown at least 3 to 5 years of functional behavior, coping with this illness without being exploitive, without being, with having these, sense of grandiose thoughts and feelings, and lying, and doing things to that can actually hurt other people just to make themselves look in a certain level. I would not encourage it unless they showed a track record of functioning at a high level with this. If they haven't or they didn't, I would not encourage anybody to get in a relationship with a person like this, because what's going to end up happening is that you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're giving and giving and giving, and you're not receiving anything, and it's going to be emotionally draining, and it's going to be traumatic. It's a lot of trauma that you can experience from that. And for this type of person, they're going to come out like not even caring how you felt or how they harmed you. Actually, they'll try to pretend that they were the victim and that it was your fault. It was you. You didn't do this for me. It's all about what I'm getting and receiving, not what you experienced. So they're blinded to the fact of what someone else is experiencing. So I would definitely wholeheartedly recommend, professional recommendation is not to get involved with in anybody with this type of mental health issue unless they have shown a track record for years of being able to function. And when I'm talking about functioning, I mean in not being hospitalized. I mean not having major disruptive behavior towards their family members, for people who are close to them that actually love and care for them, being able to hold a job where they didn't get fired, or they didn't act in any way of where they were trying to exploit or manipulate or get over on other people, things like that. They would have to show years of not doing that before I would, and consistent with therapy for me to say, okay, maybe it may be worth giving a shot. But if they don't have that track record, I would not encourage anybody to get in a relationship with, to me, one of the most selfish type of disorders there is. Like, just itself, narcissism itself is filled with the fact that a person has, is all about self. It's not about others. It's a me thing. It's all about the way I feel about myself. That is not reality, and so it'll be mentally draining. It would be emotionally traumatic, and it could scar you before getting in other relationships because of the amount of issues that you would have to deal with in that. So that would be my professional recommendation. I would say no, do not get in a relationship with someone with this type of
Okay.
illness.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you so much. I know that it's almost about that time. I don't want to hold you because you said that you had a
Yeah, I
meeting or
got I got
something.
five I got 6 more minutes.
6 more minutes. Is
Yeah,
there
I have a
anything
clinical
that
meeting I have at 4:30.
okay?
So
Is there
yeah.
anything that anybody wanted to say to D Darrell or ask D Darrell before he has to go to his meeting?
Okay, D. Darrell, a lot of people suffer from this. Can
No, they
you
don't. A
define?
lot of people
No, no,
don't
no, no,
suffer.
no, 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 no. What I'm getting ready to say, not
Oh,
narcissistic
oh,
personality disorder.
oh, okay, okay,
Um, the silent treatment.
okay.
Define the purpose of that.
The silent treatment.
Yeah, when a person gives you the silent treatment and they
Okay,
just emotionally starve you for days or whatever.
okay.
what are they trying to do?
Okay, so a person that uses the silent treatment is in a way trying to manipulate you and trying to control you, or trying to thinking that if I give you a negative uh let's say a negative reaction or negative reinforcement, that's going to basically force you to change. It's going to force you to do something that you may not want to do, or it's going to put you in a position where you have an ultimatum to either do this and bend to this person's will. A person that is, you have to be in a certain mindset to do that. Now, the silent treatment can be given in a lot of different ways. Some people decide to do that in the midst of not knowing correct ways to communicate about something that severely happened in the relationship, where they will basically not talk to you for 2 to 3 days until they're ready to speak. Okay. And then there's
Okay.
those that, to me, I would look at it. To me, when I deal with this issue in a therapeutic situation, I'm looking at the repetitiveness of it, the duration and the repetitiveness of it. Meaning, every time you do something that I don't like, I'm going to give you the silent treatment, as opposed to maybe I do this when something's severe. So it all depends on the situation. But to me, it's more engulfed in the fact that a person is trying to pressure or manipulate you and doing something that they want you to do. And also it could be a way of being passive aggressive and attention seeking. So that they're doing this, so it forces you to try to give them more attention, forces you to try to communicate, forces you to pay more attention to them and things like that. It all depends on the individual. I'm basically highlighting various dynamics that may contribute to that, because it's not one reason why someone would do it. It could be a variety of reasons, but regardless of that, it is a form of manipulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, real quickly, what
Mhm.
is the difference between the silent treatment and a person just, having space, making
Right.
space?
And that's what I stated. That's why I did, uh, lament to the fact that it's a difference between, I'm looking at the repetitiveness of it and the duration. Okay.
Okay.
So a person that gives the silent treatment every time you have a disagreement, that's abusive. That's in a sense where you're being manipulative and you're being abusive in a sense. Okay. But let's say if that was an isolated extreme situation, such as the person cheated on you and you went 2 or 3 days without talking to him, that's something totally different. But you eventually, separated and took a break. Or let's just say, in her case, for her taking a break or leaving, or being silent for a week or two due to some of the traumatic, that actually would be justified because of the extremity of the situations that she went through. But she, to practice that. But it becomes somewhat redundant if every time we have a conflict, you resort to this same behavior over and over and over again. So a healthy way to part ways is to communicate. Listen, obviously we're not saying eye to eye. Every time we talk is toxic. We're arguing, we're yelling, we're not listening to each other. I think it's a good idea that we don't speak to each other for a week, or I move out, or I go away and take a break for 2 weeks or whatever, until we can diffuse our emotions and be able to talk as adults. Now, I actually encourage this a lot in marital therapy or relationship therapy, where people live together, where every time they argue, it's a intense argument where people are yelling, screaming, cursing, and threatening one another. If you're noticing that this is always, I'm talking 80-90% of the time, this is the outcome of a disagreement and you can't resolve it, well, it's right now, I think it would be appropriate that you all be in therapy separately, okay, to
Mhm.
learn proper tools and then re-engage. And so that, because obviously you don't have the tools to communicate with each other. Why would I encourage you to continue getting in more and more toxic interactions? which basically kills the relationship over time. You're better off giving yourself time. But notice when I'm saying this, you're doing some level of work. It's not just the purpose of doing it for no reason. You're actually doing cognitive or therapeutic work to retool so that you can have an effective discourse or conversation. So that there's a goal tied to it, not just for no reason. So separating for a short period of time with work is actually beneficial. It can be beneficial, but it also again goes back to the repetitiveness of it. Then it becomes where this is not yielding any positive gains if we're constantly having to do this 2 or 3 times a month or every other month or so. There has to be a level where we can get past that and not have to do that at a certain point. So there is benefits to doing that.
Okay. All right. Well, Coach D. Darrell,
I'm
Dr. D.
sorry.
Darrell. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, D. Darrell. I'm sorry. I was on mute. So, would you recommend that so that if you're not exactly sure whether or not this person needs time to think, or whether or not this person is not doing it as a passive aggressive move, that you make a statement such as like the statement that you made, where you say, well, maybe we need to separate and collect our thoughts and come back in a week or so.
Right.
Would that be a good response to break that cycle if the person is doing it merely to punish you?
Yes. I do think that if a person is
Mm,
doing that to merely punish you, I do think that separating and doing the work, the therapeutic work would be appropriate so that we can stop doing this. There's no use now just for the fact doing it just for the mere fact of doing it really doesn't promote growth. You're just going to come back with the same behavior. But I'm looking at doing it in a way of seeking behavioral change,
Okay.
communication change, psychological change. Um, a big part of communication is not talking, is actually listening. The hardest thing that I have to, when I deal with therapeutic situation and relationships, the most difficult thing is listening to each other, not expressing oneself. It's the listening aspect. And so, yes, even in a situation like that, parting ways with a goal in mind and the work in mind would be more beneficial.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, D.
Well, I do
Darrell.
have a little bit more time. I'm just actually waiting. They're gonna let me know, but I do have just let you know. I'm gonna get a text message to let me know when they're ready. So
Well, I
so
learned
oh,
something. I learned something from that because I was in a relationship where a person was doing it as a punishment, and I wish that I would have known that to make that statement, because
uh-huh.
it would have been more productive than what I was doing.
Now punishment is toxic in any relationship.
Yes.
Punishment.
yeah, it is.
This is adults. We're not children. Okay. Punishment is toxic in a relationship because what punishment does is causes resentment. And then
Yes.
you're also producing a situation where a person is in almost in a sense fearful to do things instead of acting in their true self. They're fearful of saying things or fearful of communicating or fearfully interacting in a certain way in fear of you trying to punish them again or take things away. Now, I do think there are situations that does call for an effective means to not do certain things based on certain acts. Again, if there's something like um again infidelity may cause for some certain things that may need to be cut off until we can learn to change our behavior or we come to do some work. I think mismanagement financially, gambling or something like that, or doing things that can actually hurt the overall household or family and things, you may need to stop doing certain things. I do think that there's a healthy way to stop doing things. But in that, we are communicating it. Okay. We're not just doing it just to make you suffer and punish you.
So
Okay.
just jumping up and running out every time you get angry, that's
Yes.
not an effective form of handling conflict.
Yes. Because what happens when you come back? What have you learned from that? You're still going to
Right.
come back with the same mindset with the same behavior. And that's why when these things happen, when I deal with it in therapy, I'm trying to get you not to have to go to these extreme measures. If we're going to do that, when we come back to the table, what are we going to put in our arsenal so that we can prevent this from happening? And what happens is that, notice when we hear people talk about ineffective, it's kind of like the same problems over and over and over. The reason why is because we haven't done anything different. We're still doing the same behaviors and getting the same results. So my job is to create new behaviors, healthy behaviors that can become second nature so that we can avoid or minimize these type of situations. You know, that would be the appropriate way. So when you do have an issue, you're more calmer, okay? You're more calm, you're more attentive, you're showing a certain level of emotional intelligence. You're able to communicate how someone is feeling, how you are feeling. Okay. It's goal orientated. We're just not spewing words just for the fact of spew. It has to be goal directed, and we're problem solving. And so, in a lot of relationships, we can't get people fail because they can't even listen to each other. They want to be right. And it's not about being right. It's about what's productive and what can we correct about the relationship. And trying to be
Mhm.
right. You can be right by yourself. You can
So
be
when
right.
that,
Yeah, you know
so
what
when
Right
this,
that's
by
mean.
yourself. I mean,
so when
that's
the
fine.
young
You can be
lady, so
right,
when the young lady said that she was trying to leave because things was getting heated and she was having a hard time coping and she wanted to create distance, and when a person forces you to stay, what can you do in a situation like that where the person refuses to let you leave and you can
that's a
feel that it's
crime.
getting out of hand?
That's a crime. You need to call the police.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't hold
Right.
anybody against your and see this is the thing. This is one of the reasons why there's certain areas that I don't like which say things I love dealing with therapeutically and things that I don't. And the tricky thing about domestic violence situations is that when you and I know and people don't really understand this about the victim is not thinking rationally. And it takes a lot of patience and understanding to understand they're not thinking rationally. So even though she wanted to leave, she didn't know how to leave. How do I leave is really the question. How do I leave without feeling like my life is in danger or feeling like I'm going to be able to go to a place where I'm safe and secure? And the reason why a lot of women don't leave is because they don't know how to properly and they're not financially or emotionally capable of doing it where they feel safe and secure in another environment. They feel actually
Okay.
safer because they know if they're in this space, he's taking care of this, that, and whatever, and they're going to have those basic needs they're going to need. But when you go and do this and take this step, it's unknown. It's unknown to where I'm going to go. A shelter? Am I going to go to this homeless shelter or to a domestic violence shelter? Can I get help from here or there? How am I going to? A lot of guys like this don't want the ladies to work, so that they use financial abuse. So it's and I'm saying this as education, so people understand why these women stay in these situations
You
because
just
there's
brought
a
up
lot.
you just brought up something that I really need to ask, Ruri. Ruri, you mentioned that you were in a domestic violence shelter.
Yes.
And I also remember that in his live stream, he communicated that the reason why you were in the shelter wasn't due to him being violent. Because I asked him point blank and he didn't answer my question. And then on GMT's channel, he said he didn't touch you, but you said that he hit you quite a few times, even in your stomach while you were pregnant.
Right.
And I want you to explain emphatically, why would you be in a domestic violence shelter?
Okay. So he's talking about when during that time he was talking about two different time frames. When I went to the domestic violence shelter, I didn't know I was pregnant the whole time. So during that time, he hit me. He threw me against the wall and choked me, and then I left that particular time. So I didn't even know I was pregnant the whole time I was gone.
When did you call the police?
In that case, I didn't. Just somebody that the advocate that I told you about from my church, she helped me get away from him and got me to a shelter.
Okay. So that was the first time.
The first time that I actually successfully got away,
Okay. And
and then
then what
then
about
when
the
I
second time?
then when I got to the domestic violence shelter, I was being mistreated in the shelter.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah, that happens too. Yes, I
What? Being
that
mistreated
happens.
by who?
the
Yes, yes,
staff,
yes,
the staff.
What?
yes. That
Hmm.
happens. That happens. That is very common. That the
Yeah,
staff
they
will mistreat you. Just because you're in a shelter doesn't mean that people care about you and your situation. There are people that have their own set of situations in these type of facilities. Yes, this happens quite a lot.
Yeah, then
Yes.
you're mixed in with criminals and people with all kinds of background. They don't check for weapons. There was a young lady. It felt like what I went through mentally at the shelter was like worse than what I went through at THT. I hate to say that out loud, but that's how I felt. Like I felt like
Mm,
I might as well stay at my own house and
Oh
deal with the
no.
abuse because it's not all the time, versus having to feel like this and go through what they're putting me through. So
Yes.
they actually fabricated a story saying that I leaked the location of the shelter, and a young lady who was actually trying to stab me at the shelter said I was trying to beat her up. So they ended up kicking me out, and I had no other place to go. So I actually went back to THC.
Oh
And that
no.
is what she's saying is very common. Most of the
wow.
reason I'm gonna say this, and I know that people don't talk about this issue. This is one of the reasons why women stay in these. People just thinking, well, they just crazy and they just why you just. It's not that simple. There's a lot of dynamics in this that women stay in these relationships that we don't think about and don't know. And there have been situations where I've had women that went to these shelters and they left and went right back to the abuser because a lot of these situations where you have a lot of women that come from different type of backgrounds. We're talking about women who sell drugs, women who are in the sex industry, sex workers, and things like that. They're coming from all different places, and they don't understand how to function with other people. And so when you got these women that all come from these, and they will act and do, they will steal, they will do other things. They will be very disrespectful. And there's a lot of women that would leave these places after a day or two and go right back because they didn't like the place where they were at. And this happens. This happens very frequently. So I do understand and empathize with what she's saying because I've heard this many times. This is not cap. This is the truth. This is reality.
So when did you call the police? Did you call the police at the second time you went to the
Um,
shelter?
I called the actually now that I remember, I actually called the first time, but I stood outside the police station because they kind of closed early for some strange reason in Fort Worth. I stood there for 6 hours in the cold, and no dispatch came. So I got discouraged. Went back to the hotel I was staying at, but I couldn't afford to stay for any additional nights, so I ended up going back to him.
Okay.
Oh
And
no.
then the second time you called, describe that.
Um, the second time it was the neighbors that called.
Okay, so it wasn't you, it was the neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay. And describe that situation and how that went.
Um, he actually stepped out of during that time. He was saying that he was gonna beat me in the face with his AK-47, and the neighbors heard him, and
No.
they heard everything he said because the windows were open. So at this particular stage, all the neighbors knew that he was hitting me.
Oh no.
Um, the ones across from us, the ones underneath us, the ones across the other side, they all got together and decided to call the police. But he had just stepped out the house to go for a smoke break, and ironically, the police showed up. So I was nervous, shaking because I know he had the AK on his person. And I know that if he was to come back up those stairs and see the police, he's going to open fire. He's not going to surrender.
You know
So,
Wow.
that he wouldn't surrender?
yeah, he would definitely not surrender.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, he would
So
not
so
surrender.
he was that unstable.
Yeah, and I think I forgot how many rounds are in the clip of the AK-47, but he would have just opened fire.
And he
Goodness.
does practice a lot too.
Yeah, yeah, he practices a lot.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
So I was scared and I didn't say anything. And I told the police I was leaving, and I actually did leave. So I got in the car and left. But his parents actually paid for my hotel stay for a couple of days. It was 3 days, and they paid for my food. Um, and I was trying to get housing or even get put in a shelter in that particular county or the county next door, and I just wasn't getting any answers. um his parents has the ability to like easily write me a check to send me wherever I needed to go, but at that particular time they thought probably I because they saw him how they saw me as they saw him, so they thought that I was using drugs and abusing, so they didn't want to give me any money. They wanted to make sure the story was legit. She wanted to physically come to the hotel to make sure I was there and he wasn't there, because I don't know what kind of games he's possibly played with his parents in the past. So they were kind of like at that particular time giving me a hard time because even though they saw what he did, they were saying that they didn't raise a son like that, and that's not how they raised him, and they just didn't quite believe it that he was physically abusive.
So were you
Now,
pregnant and afraid like that?
When I was
Were you carrying and being in fear like that? Because then the baby could feel the fear too.
Yeah, during when he did hit me on July 2nd, um I was pregnant and I was curled up in a ball to try to protect myself as much as I could.
Oh.
I wanted to ask to kind of get back to the whole when you found out about his drug addiction thing. When
Um
was the first time you became aware of his drug addiction?
when I had a because he mentioned on his channel that he used to pop pills back in the day and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it didn't like quite register to me until all of my pills were gone. Like I had some Tylenol
But
codeine
yeah, I
pills.
remember him saying he used to, but that's
Hmm.
past tense.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
when you got with him, he was still
Yes.
doing it.
Doing things. I'm not aware of what he did behind my back or when he left the home, but I just knew that when I had my first tooth extraction, I only had a couple of the pills for the first day, and I didn't even get to take them as prescribed because they were all gone. And at other times, he sold my pills to get money to buy marijuana.
Oh my goodness. So let me ask you now, when you got the tooth extraction, the pills that they prescribe normally would be some sort of pain medication. What type of pain medication did they prescribe you?
It was the Tylenol with the codeine, and it was a
Okay.
pretty high amount because of they made some mistakes with cutting into my gum or not breaking the tooth off all the way type of deal. So every time I got an instruction, it always didn't quite turn out right.
Okay. So goodness. When you saw the Tylenol codeine pill bottle, was it just a few of the pills that were missing or
They were all gone. The whole bottle was empty
within a what time frame?
within a day. Because the first day when I came back, I wasn't able to like sit up properly because of the throbbing and stuff. So usually when I'm not feeling well, he takes pretty good care of me, like a little nurse and stuff like that. But I was shocked when I didn't receive any more codeine pills for pain. He was like, "Oh, babe, just take the ibuprofen because I don't want you to, take all of this. This stuff is strong and stuff like that." So, I was like, okay, because he said I don't know if it'll conflict with your other medications, and I was like, all right, fine. But then when I got better, and I was like, wait a minute, where's the pills at? The whole thing is gone. So I called. I think this is about the third day. I called his mom, and she was like, "Oh, baby, I'm sorry. He has an issue with drugs, and we've been struggling with this for the past 10 years."
Wow. So, did he tell you that he had the that he was still doing it, or I mean, how did you find
He
out?
he just told me that it's helping him like with his anxiety. So he was like, he feels good when he takes it. So he asked me first. He asked me could he have one, and I was like, yeah, go ahead. And that kind of, I guess, put the taste in his mouth for the pills again, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, because codeine is like morphine. So yeah, you're gonna be in a good mood. You're gonna be mellow, and you're gonna be high, and you're gonna feel better.
Oh, wait, we have Mahogany Roots down there, and she's actually a dental hygienist. Mahogany, can you come up and can you talk to us a little bit about the medications that you normally prescribe to patients for pain? And because I don't know too much about Tylenol or how addictive it is or anything of that nature. So I dropped the link down there for you. If you could just please grace us with your presence just for a little while, just to tell us, about, your experience and what this medication does. But I do think that Tylenol in and of itself, I don't think that that would be addictive. I think
When
it's the
when
codeine.
I
I,
yeah, I
I
think
think it's the codeine.
Yeah, I think it's the same kind because I had a C-section when I had my son. So they gave me Tylenol with codeine for the first time, and I was really like high off of it.
Okay. What's up, Mahogany?
Hey, what's up, sweetie?
Hey,
Sorry, I'm
Hey,
mahogany.
getting.
Megan.
Hey, y'all. I'm getting dressed, so forgive me. I'm not going to be on camera while I get dressed. But so I am a dental hygienist, and I give local anesthetics. But I work in that field. I've been working in that field for many years, and basically, she's right. It's very typical for them to prescribe just a higher dosage of Tylenol, like maybe 800 milligrams, whereas versus over the counter or acetaminophen. Acetaminophen, normal over the counter is 200, but like doctor's strength is about 800 milligrams. And then a step above that is with the codeine. And the codeine is the part that's the actual drug, versus the painkiller. But and then it just gets a little stronger and a little stronger. But a lot of dentists, to be honest with you, a lot of dentists are going away from uh, prescribing the stronger stuff, because some people, they do find that they're coming back, within days, saying that they need more and stuff like this. I just want to say really quick while I'm up here, I'm so sorry that you went through all this, sweetheart. I'm very, very sorry. And it just pains me. I hate to see anybody go through this type of stuff. So and I think everybody that's listening is sympathetic to you. And but that's a sign. I just want to say that's a sign. Something as simple as medication. But the thing is, if they're the type of person that cares more about their self gratification than your needs, you needed that. You needed that to ease your pain. Then that's a huge sign that that person really. Forgive me for saying that their addiction is more, they care more about that than they care about you, so that's a huge sign. um yeah,
Right.
I just been listening, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, and if you guys look at the live stream where he was showing off my medications, the codeine pills, he like hovered them in the kitchen cabinet versus the big bag where I kept everything else. And when I came to visit him when I was at the shelter, he gave me the codeine pills. I forgot for what purpose. I think I had something going on at that particular time. And when I got kicked out the shelter, I didn't even get a chance to take the codeine pills at all. I left them under my bed by accident because usually at the shelters you have to lock all your medications up in one cabinet, and my cabinet was already like full of stuff. So I left the pills, and when I came back to him, he was so angry that I forgot the pills, and he was like, "Oh, you took them all, or you gave them away," and he was just catching a hissy fit. But in that cabinet, he was breaking them off in little pieces, like hoarding. There's still some codeine pills if you look closely to the video. Like he keeps them all in that kitchen cabinet.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm gonna continue just to listen. I really am gonna, because I don't, I don't know you, but I just, and I'm the type of person, I don't like to like just jump in and tell you what I think, but that, like I said, that's a huge sign of how that person really feels. And you seem like such a sweet, intelligent person. You deserve, I don't care what nobody says, you deserve, but you got to know that you deserve the best and you deserve the best treatment. Um, I just wish you the best, you and your baby. Faith, thank you so much for letting me up, and I will.
No, well, thank you for coming up and answering the question. Just one last question before you go. How
Sure.
addictive is codeine? I don't know.
Um, it can be addictive, but most doctors don't prescribe it, because they know it's one of those drugs that can be addictive. I've very rarely seen people do a refill for codeine. Like it's very, very rare. Like with a lot of those type of addictive drugs, the doctors might only refill it once because they know. And to be honest, they have a system. A lot of dentist office, medical office, they have a system right now, an electronic system, that if a patient has been prescribed a narcotic, like within a certain amount of time, they're almost red flagged. The doctor will get a notice, seriously, letting them know, hey, do not prescribe this person this. Like they're really, it's been that way for some years now. I've been in the field for a long time, but they don't play about that. I know where I work at a government office, and they do not play about that at all. They count every pill, they're not playing with it. We get a lot of patients that request stuff, and he'll give them what he can to help ease the pain. But after a certain refill is done, it's done. Because a lot of times, to be honest, if we're not talking about extractions, let's say somebody comes in for something else. Some people, they just want to feel fine for the moment, but that's not going to get rid of that's not going to get the pain. That's going to keep on coming back. So they know that they want you to deal with the issue, whatever that might be. And us pushing out medication is not fixing the problem. So if you do have super pain, you need a root canal, us giving you medications is not going to take away the fact you need a root canal or you need your teeth extracted. So that's why they don't, it's very hard. It's very hard to get that over. Somehow people manage, they sell their stuff on the street, like y'all were talking about, black market, which is awful, but we know that people do stuff like that, so they're on the lookout for it.
Okay. Well, that's good information. I didn't know any of that. So thank you for sharing with us, Mahogany.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm a listen. This is a great story. I'm sorry that it had to be a life story, but it's always a good thing for people to learn. I learned a lot of stuff just listening to you talk, just listening to Dee talk about the signs, because you guys were talking about punishment, and I thought about it. Yeah, doing something to punish your partner, that is abusive, but we don't think about things like that.
No.
So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mahogany.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
All right. So let's go ahead and get back to the story, or your not or your experience. Um, because like Mahogany says, this is something that other women can listen to and they can learn from. So you went through all this control mechanism, him, stealing from you, not taking your health into consideration, just more or less just selfish and only caring about himself and his own needs and his own pleasure. Um, if you can think back, on, different things that happened, what would you do differently?
I would have stayed. For one, I would have put my Airbnb closer to the airport. So if things got great, because I stayed in Texas for quite some time in my Airbnb before I moved in with him. So we were staying at our Airbnb in Fort Worth for a while before I decided to move in with him. So my first mistake was putting the Airbnb in Fort Worth like he wanted. I should have just listened to my gut and stayed closer to the airport, so that way I could have, just went back home. Um, if I saw any flags or anything.
Okay. Do you think that also you might have reconsidered, you know, wanting to have the baby with him?
In the beginning, because he was saying, if you're not gonna be with me, then abortion's your only option. So when he started hitting me, he was like, and I told him like, I'll get the abortion, I'll get the abortion, just let me leave. Like he wouldn't physically let me leave the apartment that day. So he was like, so when he was hitting me, he said it doesn't matter anyway. So he just got more physical that day. But what a lot of people don't understand is like I have a different set of beliefs. I personally feel, because when, like I said, I dreamt of him 6 years before I met him, and in my dream, I already had a child by him. The child was already 7 years old in the dream, so I felt that the child was destined because I always had issues getting pregnant. I always wanted a second child over the years, and I don't believe in abortion. Like I'm real solid on that. It's just something that mentally I don't think I could recover from.
Okay. And that's perfectly fine. If that's your belief, that's your belief. From what you describe of that first beating with him hitting you in the stomach, do you think that he might have possibly been trying to make you have a miscarriage?
Yes, I think so because he was like super duper rough on my body. I had bruises everywhere. And he was just kept slamming me down and throwing me down. Were just extremely over the top more than he has ever been. And like he was saying, he didn't believe that it was his kid because I was at that domestic violence shelter for that brief period. So in his mind, the child wasn't his anyway.
So, I mean, he thought that you had met someone at the shelter or.
Yeah, he thought I met somebody at the shelter. He thought that because he was even accusing me of sleeping with a guy at the shelter if I didn't pick up his phone calls in a timely manner. Um, and the thing is that he goes on like in his mind, oh, it was with your ex husband. I was speaking to all of my friends, anybody that I considered a friend. I was like, this is what I'm going through, y'all. Like, pray for me. But I didn't know I was pregnant while I was at that shelter.
Well,
Did you
I just
think
want
people
to.
believed you? Did you think people believed you, or did they
Uh,
think it was histrionics, or did he poison people's minds from believing you?
like what? Like specifically, like what do you mean?
Like sometimes a person gaslights you and says, I don't know what's wrong with her. She's making this up. And they're very convincing and they can convince people that all this is in your mind. Did any of
Yeah,
that did any of
yeah.
that happen?
Yeah, he did that all the time. He was like, I never hit you. And he was like, if I did, because he was like, how was my hands? Was it balled up or was it out straight, and his hands would be out straight most of the time. But he did punch me that one time, so I was like, for the first time, I actually saw your whole fist this time. And then he'll say, "Oh, that other stuff didn't happen," or "Let me see your bruises. It wasn't that bad." And he was like, "You're the reason why it happened. You did this because you tried to leave, and
So
it
so
wouldn't have."
he's physically abusing you and trying to make you believe that you're the reason why.
Yeah, he was like, "That you did this, and this wouldn't have happened if you tried to leave."
Wow.
Are you okay now?
Yes, because I left the state, so I feel a lot better.
Right.
You sound calm.
Yeah, I'm
Now
always calm. I'm
we're
always
not
calm.
gonna we're not gonna disclose where you are now because he's tracked you down on a few occasions, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and
And
I,
can you
I
tell
showed
us
you.
a little bit about that?
I showed you the email. You could check your email. I showed you
Oh,
the email thread where he already had my address. Because I left my laptop, and I think I had to message a program coordinator from this program that I was in and update her with my address. So he was able to get my address from my emails, and he was also hacking into my Facebook accounts.
wow.
Because I blocked him, and his only method of communication was email.
Did you
Okay,
have
so
to start all over? I'm sorry. Go ahead. We keep talking. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Faith. I apologize.
I'm looking through my email now. You sent me quite a few things here.
It might be the very last one. Let's see. Let's see.
Well,
It
it
should
says
say. It
proof
should
I
say.
didn't.
Yeah,
Oh,
proof
I'm
I didn't
sorry.
send him my address. It should say that in the subject line.
Okay. All right, I see the email now. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen real quickly so that we can go through these emails. Goodness, I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this.
Did you have to start all over from scratch, or were you able
Um.
to salvage portions of your life?
Well, I had just moved into transitional housing, and I wasn't there for not even 3 months. So with him already having the address from the very beginning, it put me in jeopardy from the start, and I ended up leaving everything.
Oh,
I just took one suitcase. My house just got fully furnished.
no.
Okay, hold on a second. I didn't mean to share the entire screen. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is my email here, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull open. Wait a minute, this is the wrong one. I don't know how this happened. Oh, goodness. Let me stop sharing and get my whole life together here. I thought I had it together.
So you and the baby are well now, right? Considering everything, you guys are doing fine.
Let me.
Like your mental health, you guys are calm and not scared like before.
I'm pretty much calm in like stressful situations. That's just I do have a background in the medical field, so I think that's where that comes from.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, I have a background in radiology.
Mhm. Yeah. That must be terrifying. Thinking that you're going home, to a safe place, and you have to be more afraid of going home than being in the street.
Yeah.
That's got to be terrifying. So,
Oh,
did he try to apologize at any point, or is
Yeah,
he
he
still?
he
Yeah.
apologized after the GMT stream that we did a month ago.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so he actually apologized in person, even though he denied abusing me at all, because he fractured the back of my skull. So
Oh no.
I have a tiny fracture, and it was causing me to have seizures again. So he was saying apologizing for that.
for some reason or another, it won't allow me to share that
Yeah, you probably
particular email.
okay. Probably just read the. You could read it if you can on your end.
Yeah, I can. And I do apologize for that. I don't know. I'm kind of like not the most tech savviest person around here, but I'll go ahead and just open up the email and read it to you guys. One second. All right, come on. All right, Gmail. There we go. All right, so the first email that I have here, you sent me three attachments. Is that correct?
Yes, with the address email.
Okay. So it says here, is this the first one where it says you're just busy reading my messages? Go ahead and enjoy yourself. Is that the first one?
No, that should be the last one. The first one, it says you could sell the laptop. I was telling him like he could sell the laptop and to like throw out all my things that I left behind there.
Okay, so here it is right here. I see it. It says you can sell the laptop or keep it. Everything that's mine, feel free to throw away. And he says, I have your address. I can just ship it to you if you prefer. And he says, you don't have to stay there. You can come home. And you reply to him, you say, no, thank you. I didn't give you my address, so I don't know how you have it. So he replies, okay, stay safe out there. And then he puts a heart emoji behind that. So now the second one says, he responds, he's further responding. He says, I'll go ahead and ship it tomorrow. You should have it in a few days, along with, I can't really see because I
Yeah,
can't open
yeah,
it up.
yeah. I was just
But
showing you the screening of what the back and forth.
so then you reply, I miss you, but I know the appropriate time will come when I see you again. And he responds, I don't know. I see you messaging guys and such. I saw you deleted messages today too. And you say, just hold it and give it to your mom. Put my
Yeah,
toothbrush in there with the
I was
charger.
trying. I was trying to tell him what things I wanted his mom to deliver to me, and not him shipping or coming to my home.
Okay. And you responded to him by saying, you're just busy reading my messages. Go ahead and enjoy yourself. And he says, I was sick and trying to get the love of my life back. All I had was those messages.
Yeah, he was like going through my email account, going through my Facebook account, like just reading his heart out and just violating my privacy.
So, I mean, basically, here he's calling you the love of his life. And how
Yeah.
did he go from you being the love of his life to he wants nothing to do with you and the baby?
And to me being the demon, he also calls me his world. He's always called me that.
Wow. So then he also goes on to say, I was sick and trying to get the love of my life back. All I had was those messages. And he says, I was trying to see how you really feel since you never tell me anything. You tell Amanda so much more than I ever knew about us. So who's
So
Amanda?
she's a girl that I met in the shelter too, and and I felt some type of way because I was like, she escaped her narcissistic husband, and then to see that he's reading our messages and there's no privacy. Like he read everything, and every time I didn't know over a period of time he was reading every single message in private because he was looking for interaction with men or men of any kind, whether it was family. He still said it was other dudes. And my friend Amanda, he did THC had an issue with me hanging around with women. I couldn't go out and hang out like normal people do and socialize. He would accuse me of eating a woman out if I was gone after 30 minutes to an hour. Like he would have a issue. I used to be president of PTA at my son's school, so I had to do like work brunches and stuff like that. And if I didn't come home within a certain time, it would be an issue.
Wow. This is I'm looking at some of his YouTube shorts, and he has quite a bit of stuff, quite a bit of shorts on there. Now he's on this kick since you guys have I guess broken up or what have you. So now he's talking about handsome men, and
Yeah.
he has this whole stream going on and on about how handsome men can get money from women without having to ask. They can get sex without having to put forth too much effort. And he says that handsome men should not date women that look less attractive than them.
Right, right, because he basically is butthurt, and during arguments he only said it like one time that my face doesn't isn't that attractive as my body is. So that's a reflection of him saying that he dated down and dated an uglier woman who left him, so he feels kind of butthurt about it, and he wants to make up for it by saying how handsome he is so he can get the next woman in place to pay his bills.
But he
What?
doesn't think that wait, but he doesn't think that you dated down.
No.
So when you met him, did he have it going on like that?
No, at the time, he made really good money from YouTube. He would send me like a care package every month. Like he was so sweet because he would send like when during my menstrual, he would send like all the snacks and stuff that I like to eat. Certain holidays, I'll open my door and there's presents all over the porch from him for both myself and my son. So he was always like really like tedious, and the things he would do, like he would get me like a chocolate from the other side of the world just so I can have a different kind of chocolate and stuff like that.
So what I'm trying to get is he's telling you, because basically this is abusive. I just want to put that out there. Yeah, Demetrius Agashikata says the love bombing. So he was love bombing you, even though he felt that you were less than,
Yeah.
which doesn't make any sense. And yet he felt like he was the cat's meow. Now, did he have a job? When
He
you
was working for his parents' insurance company.
okay, so he
Yeah,
was
his
making
fa- his
money.
yeah, his father had a insurance business that was basically his, that was supposed to be THT's business. So his father, I was supposed to as a administrative executive assistant and help out with the family business, and eventually it was supposed to be passed over to THT completely.
Okay, so his parents were actually setting him up for success.
Yeah, yeah, he comes from a really, like, his parents are like the parents that a lot of people wish they would have. His mom's a doctor, his dad's this successful businessman that used to work for Johnson and Johnson, who was the top second salesman in the United States. So it's like, so that's why he kind of has this thing in his mind where he's higher than everybody because he's never had to suffer or go through anything.
But I do see a pattern where he doesn't want you to take medication to make your mind clearer and calmer. He doesn't want you to wear a wig a wig because he thinks that white men are going to look at you. So he's doing things to knock you down a peg
Yeah,
and to subdue you, to subdue your personality, to subdue your will, and to subdue your looks. And then at the same time, he's telling you that you are all right, like you're
yeah.
Right.
mid.
Like it was kind of like he did like a Kevin Samuels situation. Um, Called me a leftover woman, and how he had several chances to dance, and he chose me out of all the girls he had that was talking to him, and he could have
So
had something
basically, you
better.
you ought to be grateful that he
Yeah,
chose you.
yeah, that I should be very grateful. Like he was saying, like, I gave you a family, you didn't have that. I gave you access to certain people in life that you would have never had access to. So he really put me down as far as my looks. He was like, without makeup, you look
Oh my God.
um this way, but when you put on makeup, you look a little bit better. Um so he was like, keep doing that and you improve like 10% overall, like stuff like that.
Who
10%.
who does that?
All right. Yeah.
And then he did the whole body count thing. And same thing with the minister. He is no different from those guys,
What?
no different. And it was
So the
like,
whole time online, he was portraying himself one way, but offline with you, he was full on manosphere.
yeah, and he said himself that he slept with women double his age. And I was like, my body count ain't that high like how yours is, so how are we different? And how, because you're a woman and this and that. So it's like he did everything that Kevin Samuels did
Oh my
down
God.
to looks and your grading the physical appearance and everything.
Hold on a second, y'all.
Mhm.
To my audience, this is how he felt the entire time. All the women following his channel. Let me tell you, if you continue to listen to this guy, you are male identified. You are pygmalion. You're sitting up here being spellbound and drawn in by this guy. And what he's saying online is different than what he is saying and doing offline. He has always been manosphere in his mind and in his heart. And what this woman is describing, what she's going through, this is the real him. So if you don't want to believe her, that's up to you. But I believe her. Go ahead.
So, that's why I said, like, I can't, like, I am not strong enough to punch a hole in the wall. So if you guys look at Life of the Grandmaster's Trolls video, I can't do that kind of damage. And I know it's drywall and all that, but I still can't do that impact. My bones are very fragile and break very easily. That's one thing about my body. My bones, like he was squeezing my hand so hard one time, he almost fractured my hand just by doing a joke. I forgot what he was doing, but he physically hurt my hand where I couldn't use it for like a day or two. I don't have the strength to punch drywall.
So, how did he go from having everything laid out for him? It seems like his parents laid everything out for him.
Yeah, he's the oldest and he's also the only boy. So he's had every sports car, every high end thing you could imagine, but he just wrecks every car that they gave him. They give him a car, he wrecks it because he wants to speed and be on the road.
So how did he wind up being homeless if he has everything laid out to him and his life has been held, he's been given a silver platter. It-
Because his father will not tolerate, because like his father is what came in the way. His father was like, you have to be a man if you quit in college, because they were upset that he quit college, dropped out, and they were paying for the tuition cash. So they gave him a set of rules like don't smoke marijuana in my house, don't have a firearm in the house, and he was doing those two things while he was still living with them, and they set him out there on the street so he can learn on his own. And all he had to do was come back and apologize. But his mother sometimes would sneak and give him money. But the type of person that THT is, as long as he can smoke marijuana and have a place to lay his head, sometimes he doesn't care where he is.
Oh wow.
Being to even be homeless for 6 years, that's not normal. I've been homeless before. I have not been on the streets that long. It'll be no more than a month or two, and I worked and I saved my money.
So he was homeless 6 years.
Yeah, for 6 years, and if you listen to his story, his older stories, he stayed with a prostitute at one point and stayed in her hotel room. So Lord knows what his lifestyle really was before I met him.
So speaking of prostitutes, let's talk about his preoccupation with paying women for their nudes.
Yeah, I
Let's talk a
caught
little bit about that.
Yeah, I caught him like where there was, Instagram messages, because he usually has me check his YouTube studio comments, because there's so many that he can't keep up with. So usually he would give me the phone and have me go through all the comments, like leave a heart, or respond to the comments in a way he would, because he just doesn't have the time to read every single one of them. So the notifications were popping up with these OnlyFans girls,
Oh
um,
no.
with the Facebook stuff. So I was like, I click and I'm like, what's going on? I click on text messages. I see what's going on. And there's him asking girls for videos and asking how much, or offering the money. And then I see subscribers, familiar subscribers with their nudes, and him sending nudes,
What?
and him saying he, fluffing them up and stuff like that. So I was really hurt, because some of the messages were traced back to when we were supposed to be official, and traced down to me living with you, and you're still doing the same thing. So I was pretty upset. So when he says that I'm jealous, I have a reason to be, because of the things that he does.
Oh, okay.
So here I
So
am thinking these are
this
just
whole
regular subscribers. He had a full blown fake relationship here. He was like, "Oh, I was just doing this so I can get money," and but I was like,
What?
"Yeah." So
wow.
so I was like,
Oh
"Oh,
no.
yeah." So I was like, "Okay," but it seems like you really like this girl over here, or it seems like you really had something going on with this girl over here. So why didn't you just go be with them instead of being with me?
And
And it
I
was
gotta wrap this up, but I just want to get through everything because like I said, he made a lot of allegations in his live stream, and I want to clear some of that up here with you. So now he said that you had an uncle that you borrowed this $30,000 from. And he said that he didn't want you to borrow this money from your uncle because it was some convoluted reason. But he still took from that money that your uncle gave you.
still $1,000 to hold for him, because I'm pretty good at saving money. Like I can hold money for a long time. So I was like, you know what, Uncle, can I have about $10,000? I'm like, what do you need this money for? Because my uncle's like very simple. He's the same. He's the same. He's been the same for the past 30 something years, where he's not into materialistic things. He doesn't like driving. He's retired. He likes to DJ. My uncle's a DJ, so all he cares about is technology, electronics, and he has everything already. So I'm like, what? He hoards money like a squirrel. I always call my uncle a squirrel. So I'm like, what you gonna use this for? Like, Uncle, I could be buying some wigs. I could do a lot. So I'm like, let me get about 10,000. So he's like, all right, Nisi, and I took the 10. So I was like, over time, I'm like, man, if you don't hurry up and get this money gonna be gone. So eventually, I ran through the money, and the
What?
honest, yeah, and the honest truth helped me spend it gladly. Like, he smoked all the marijuana he wanted. He drank as much alcohol as he could drink. We traveled. We had fun. And I paid bills, and bills got paid, and and that's what happened with that. But I
But but but
told
but didn't he have money to pay
no,
bills with?
no, he only was making after him being doxxed from TAS, he was only making literally $200 every 2 months because you know how YouTube pay you every other month. So he wasn't even bringing in anything.
So how much was he making before that?
Before that, I think on average, like probably a couple of thousands. Um,
Okay.
so he was a little bit more comfortable. Plus the donations, he was getting a lot of
So
donations back then.
basically, you were holding him down,
Yep.
and hoping that he would pull himself back up.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And when he lost
So,
the insurance job, it just like really went downhill from there. So I was like, because I was already in your life, I see what you went through, and I saw how mentally he was affected. I felt more sympathy instead of running away.
well, yeah, I mean, any good woman would, feel sympathy for a man, especially if you're already with him when the downslope happens. You don't just leave a person when they're down.
Yeah.
But
And then we
it's
both
just
got
that,
COVID. We both got COVID, and he had got really, really sick where he couldn't even get off the ground. So I was taking care of him during that
wow.
process.
So you're doing everything that a good woman should do, and yet he's steady downing you. He's telling you that you're not attractive enough. You're not this. You're not that.
He's gaslighting
Wow.
you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have a son,
Yeah, I have a
and
son.
he mentioned your son quite a bit in his live stream.
Yep, and he had a lot of anger towards my son. It was that manosphere stuff again. So he was like he took a lot of anger out on my son that he wanted to direct towards my son's father. And he was saying that he wished he met me before I became a single mom, and now my baby daddy's imprint is inside of me. So how he treated my son, on hindsight, it was more so of it was just not normal, and it was very uncomfortable to deal with.
Well, on
But
his live stream, he made it seem like he had a really good relationship with your son. He said that he
um
even taught your son how to swim.
yeah, their relationship improved over the first 6 months, because my son wasn't used to having a man around, and he was more timid and nonverbal. My son has autism, but he didn't speak at first, and because he wasn't comfortable. So, but their relationship kind of blossomed, and he did teach him how to swim, and he also, how to throw a football. Have a good day. Teach him how to throw a football, and music, and he did step in and do the stepdaddy thing. He was always at my son's school whenever he had an event, dressed up and supportive, so that their relationship actually improved.
Okay, so this sounds like a lot of positive stuff. So when did it go
Yeah.
downhill and become negative?
The day I told him that I don't want him to come back to my home, and that I don't want him moving in with me, because he told his mother that he's moving in with me since his lease is coming to an end, and she doesn't want to renew for another 6 months. When I
What?
told
Whoa,
him,
whoa! Stop, stop, stop! What do you mean she doesn't want to renew for another 6 months? He didn't
uh,
have the.
she co-signs for him, and she doesn't want to do it anymore because he refuses to get a job.
Oh man.
He refuses to get a job.
Yeah, he refuses. He doesn't want to work for anybody. He doesn't want to be told what to do. He's, his family, they're pretty much like more entrepreneurial. So he feels like he doesn't have to clock in and, earn money that way.
Okay, but if his parents have stopped supporting him, how is
His
he going to
his
support himself?
his mother, unfortunately, has been enabling him for a long time. So eventually she caves in, especially if he starts threatening her. She does eventually cave in and help.
Mm. Yeah, like a lot of mothers end up doing, but that doesn't make the son stronger. And what does dad say?
That doesn't even know that she's doing it.
Wow.
Yeah, and she made me promise not to tell him. So she was like, "Please don't tell him I'm sending him money. Please don't tell him that he thinks it's your apartment. Don't tell his father that it's his apartment. Please don't tell." So I was like, "I'm tired of doing all you guys these favors. Y'all gonna start paying me for my silence, you know?" So stuff
So
like
how
that.
would you describe his relationship with his dad now?
They don't talk at all. His dad is somebody that is his worst. He's the man that he wishes, like, it's kind of like he looks in the mirror and he doesn't measure up to who his dad is. So there's like a intimidation thing, and then there's also he doesn't see his dad as a full man because of he doesn't make the same type of money that the mother does, and he doesn't respect his father as much as most people do.
How come on his show he showed pictures of him hanging out with his dad and going fishing with his dad and
That was a
hunting?
one time thing, and that sometimes their relationship improved over time, but they usually bump heads because once you say something he doesn't like, then he's more hostile. And then, like, he talks to his dad like he's fighting a Negroid on the street. And I was like, "You talking to you?" But his dad also talks like that too when they get into it. So they don't act like father and son at all. They're just two Negroes fighting in the street. So it gets
So
pretty rough.
it sounds like there's a breakdown of respect between the two of them.
Yeah, it's a breakdown of respect
Is the dad
for whatever reason.
ex-military? Is the dad
Uh,
ex-military?
no, he's just a very militant person. Yeah, very militant
Mm.
person.
Wow. Well, I don't know, Ruri. I'm sitting here. I'm listening to your story. I just want to say I'm very, very sorry. I'm like Mahogany. I'm very sorry that you had to go through all of this with him. You know, it's the mental abuse, the physical abuse, the financial abuse. This man abused you in every way that a man could abuse a woman.
Yeah, and
And
it's
it's
kind
quite
of
sad that he tried to, make it seem like it was your fault or that there was something wrong with you.
right, and that's why I went ahead and spoke on GMT's story about the firearm to bring it to the forefront, because I knew that when he got desperate and he needed money from his subscribers, he was going to pick up that sign and be the victim.
Does his is his subscribers buying it?
Yeah, they're buying it.
Oh,
The whole time in our relationship, he was messaging the moderators bad stuff about me that wasn't true. And I was like, "Why are you doing this?" And they, like, one in particular, she was like, "Oh, you're the mole, and Queen Mercy is the mole, and she's gonna cost you your career." So, and he was like, "Yeah, I think you're right." And entertaining these delusions that these girls are having in private conversations just so he has some supporters that will kick out $1,000, $700. He said there's 3 subscribers that pay his rent in full that he can always count on, so he keeps those people close.
oh, oh, wow. Do you think that some of the people that are large donators want a personal relationship with him?
They have to, because I didn't even like him at first, and I ended up being crazy about him because he does, like, the people who donate, he'll give them special privileges, call them in the middle of the night. Some of them are working night shift. Like this one girl called her at 3 o'clock in the morning every time. And when we were dating, he was like, "This is a part of my job, and this is the perks that I add because I want them to have access to me." And I always had an issue with it. So he was like, "She gives me a lot of money, so just go with the flow or whatever." So come to find out, y'all sending nudes to each other. Y'all got a whole fake relationship brewing.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen quite a few content creators run across this panel. Those that were, accused in the past of giving news and who will remain nameless. but
Hmm.
I told them. Hmm. And they're continuing to do the nude thing, I see.
Yep, and
But
that was the shocking part for me. So I was like, "Oh, I thought this person was my friend." I'm like, "Oh," like like just shocked by the things that I saw.
mm. Well, Ruri, I just want to say thank you so much for coming up here and telling your story and sharing with us. Um, I do want to say, you seem to be in a really good place now. Um, what are some of the things that you want to share, with the people in the audience about your experience? Because I know that there was something that you wanted to leave with people. So what are some of the things that you want people to know and to understand about the situation?
For me, like, cause I have like a pretty tight circle of friends, both nationally and internationally. And when a man tries to separate you from your friends, whether male or female, those are like very important signs to pay attention to. Especially when you have friends of the opposite sex and they try to make it seem like it's a insecurity thing or a respect thing, but my male friends were like my brothers to me. Some of my male friends I've never been involved with at all, strictly platonic. But they vetted him and they told me no, like something wrong with that brother, or they spoke to him on his show or either behind the scenes. So I listen to your friends, listen to your circle.
Absolutely. Miss AP from the Bronx, is there anything that you wanted to add or ask before we end the stream?
Well, I appreciate you sharing this painful part of your situation with us, because people will learn and people will know what to look for. So I do appreciate that. Um, and I just want you to protect your peace, not just for you, but for the little one.
Yes.
And I think that he might try to come back and try to get back with you.
Yeah, I know.
Even,
That's why I
yeah,
left Texas.
yeah,
That's
even
just,
if
yeah.
just to mess with you, or just to say I can come back whenever I want. So I kind of think that that might still be something that he's thinking. But
Yeah,
just
Yes.
protect yourself and protect and don't let a person play in your face like this. This is too
Yes.
much.
Yeah, that's why I left. I was like on top of everything. I'm like, here you are saying you want a second shot at your family, and then you leave your laptop open. I look down because GMT is gonna cover it because I sent him every photo of what I saw in his laptop.
I
So
can't wait to see that.
so it's kind of like, so how was I making stuff up and how was I jealous? And because literally I showed, when you have an iPhone, it shows you the date when you look at something, if the photo was live, and it literally on his Facebook, it said the message was sent 3 days ago, him asking the girl how did she get her body like that. And these are the girls that he wants the pictures from. He'll pay for photos, he'll pay for the videos. He likes women with big butts, big breasts, pretty faces. According to the handsome man, as of now, he wants total voluptuousness, and he doesn't want to settle for less because I never had a bigger butt for him. So he was always online looking at looking at those girls for
Don't believe that,
gratification.
because if you had a big butt, he'd be complaining that your butt was too big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If he's negging you, whatever you are, if you had hazel eyes, that with diamond eyelashes, he would come up with some kind of something to put you down.
Right.
Be-
Hmm.
So yeah, this is very, very toxic, and I am so glad that your story is going to help a lot of people.
And then also, that's what they call devaluing.
Yes.
That's another thing that narcissists will do to you. They will begin to devalue you and make you feel lower or less than, or that you should be thankful that they even deem to look at you or give you any type of attention. So the
Right.
devaluing thing is real.
Yeah, and I would say that because his parents didn't know about me shooting the firearm situation. So that was kind of like his ace in the hole type of thing. So aunt who stopped talking to him because he cursed at her, they're back in communication, and the same aunt, along with his parents, were going to financially support the child. So I doubt if I get that support after he's trying to get them to stop supporting me because his mom is actually on my side with the child and the whole situation.
Mm, mm.
Do you think that the parents know his true nature, and they're trying to get rid of him and pawn him off on another woman? Or do
Oh
you
yeah,
think that they,
she was
yeah,
happy. She was very happy
yeah,
that
oh
she didn't
yeah,
have to. She was like, please don't just take him to therapy. Like she was paying for our therapy. She was giving me pep talks, and
they know.
they actually came to the apartment when I told them I want to leave. I'm like, can y'all help me leave? And then they was like, no, we're gonna go to lunch. I'm like, I don't want to go to lunch. I want to go to the airport. Get me out of here.
Yeah, they know. They're trying to
Mhm.
get rid of him. They're trying to
Yeah.
Yeah.
pawn him off on a poor, innocent, unsuspecting woman. That's what that sounds like to me.
You are the best caregiver. They're
Yeah.
tired of looking after him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're waiting to cash out on their insurance policy that they have on them. So, in their eyes, they don't suspect. Because one thing that people don't know about the honest truth, he's robbed people. I didn't even know until they told me. I said, why y'all wait to tell me certain things when it's too late for me? Like, y'all supposed to be
Wait,
telling me
he
this.
has robbed people before?
Yeah, yeah, at gunpoint to get stuff. So he's been in trouble with the law recently. Of the urban police department has been looking for him because he's been selling firearms, and the person
Hmm.
he sold the gun to committed a crime. So he has more legal issues outside of me.
Wow. He sounds
And
like a
he's a scam. He's a scammer. That's how he's getting money. He scams people out of their money, buys fake products, knockoff products, and that's how he kind of earns whatever cash he has coming in.
yeah, Demetrius says, oh, so he a
Yeah, greasy one.
yeah. Yeah, so he tried to paint you to be a certain way, and we see that that is not the case. We had a lovely conversation with you. Thank you once again for coming out. I appreciate you for sharing your side of the story. And like I said, it's important that both sides get told in full. And I know that you posted it on your page. I just wanted more eyes to be on it. So
Yeah,
anybody watching this, if you're watching this right now, watching it on the replay, please share the stream out so that we can get the story out.
and he
Like the video so they can go up to the top so more people can have eyes on it. And
yeah he
did anybody
I'm
have
sorry.
anything else they wanted to add?
I'm sorry, Faith. I want to say that the stream that he did saying my pregnant baby mama took off to Florida with her ex-husband, that lie could be debunked because I went live from the airport. I went live at my Airbnb in Texas the same night, and I also went live at the airport in the morning, proving that I was still in Texas. So that was like a huge lie that he told to the world when he had no updates. Me and him did not speak at all, and he's fabricating things that are not true.
Okay, and you do have that on your channel.
Yes.
Okay, and please tell us where can we find your channel?
It is called Ami.
Uh-oh, hello?
She dropped off.
Oh, she's gone because I still see her up here.
Something happened with her mic.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. It's
No, okay.
my YouTube page is OMIPRE. So you guys will see that I'm actually in my Airbnb in Dallas, Texas, because I didn't tell them where I was, and I was like, I'm in Dallas, Texas right now, and then I actually showed myself at the airport checking in.
You said OMNIPRE?
It's OMIPRE.
PRE.
Yes.
Okay, so I made the banner, guys. This is her YouTube page. It's OMIPRE Ami Pre. Check out her videos. Make sure that you see her side of the story, because he's saying that, she, fled, left and went to Florida. And you'll see on her video when it first happened where she's actually live streaming. She's still in Texas. So there's a lot of lies. There's a lot of half truths that have been told. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. And I just want to once again say thank you so much for coming. It was a wonderful, wonderful talk. And make sure, people, that you go back and watch Grandmaster Troll's stream, because he had both Ruri and Honest Truth on his stream as well. And check out the Honest Truth, because he also told his side of the story. So like I said, I just want to make sure that all sides of the story get out, that there's just not one narrative out there.
Yes.
So with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for coming, and peace.
Thank you,
Yes,
everyone.
All right, AP. It's a
Okay.
wrap. It's a wrap.
All right. Well, that was another good one, Faith. Another good one.
Yeah, I really, my heart went out to her. She's a beautiful girl. I mean, look at these pictures. Just a beautiful,
Yeah, but do
beautiful.
you see, he doesn't want her to take her medication. He doesn't want her to wear a wig because he's scared white men are going to want her. So that means that this woman has a universal appeal. So he's
Mm-hmm.
trying to dim her light so that he can be the handsome one.
Yeah. Yeah. So he says a handsome man, and he doesn't have to pay. He doesn't have to work hard. And these women just going to give him the panties, hand it over. And unfortunately, he might be right about that, because there's a lot of women that are willing to, do the pick me shuffle. They're willing to do that.
Well, on his show, there were people that were making donations that were kind of a lot. By how much money I make, that was kind of a lot. And he would sound like, when he would be talking to them, that he talked to them on other occasions other than the show. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something else. Well, your background was cute.
Thank you.
I saw a couple of people walking past. It made it look like you were on the Today Show. You know how they have it on the Today Show, and people look in the mirror in the window and wave. I was like, oh, she got her Today Show thing going on today.
I'm trying to do something different here. I wanted to be a little bit more professional, so I'm starting to get these meeting rooms and try to do something that's a lot more conducive to having a better and more professional presence online. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you know what? I tell you, Faith, that's one thing I admire about you, is you don't let anything stand in your way, and you don't let anything thwart your efforts at being a success and moving towards your goal. Because a lot of people in our situation, it would be so easy to give up, you know, and you don't give up. You keep it pushing, you keep it moving forward, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. And you as well. You as well. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
All right,
All
well,
right,
another good
sis.
one, another good one.
Another. Well,
Uh,
everybody, that's the show. I got to pack it up. I'm starting to pack up everything and leave now. But that's my time. Please like the video, share the video. And with that, I want to say peace. And I'm out. Holla.